All right. Looks like we're live both on TikTok and the Tube of You. So ready to go. Hopefully we can have some good conversations this evening. Um, best debate? I have no idea. I don't really think about things that way. The only thing that I really think about is um, whether or not we actually have an honest conversation. I don't really think about I don't know. So, I mean, I guess my best debates are all going to be the good conversations. I had a conversation with a guy named Benjamin yesterday. I think that ended up being a really good one. We actually really had solid conversation. Felt like we got somewhere. Yeah. I don't know. I do have the guest box open, so if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, please feel free to request up. Um, Thanks for the compliment, Negate Your Mind. I appreciate it. Okay. Um, but yeah, like I said, just looking for folks who are adults that actually want to have the conversation. Um, Sorry, it's not very entertaining or exciting when it's just me sitting here waiting for people to show up, but oh, that's not what I want. Hopefully some folks will request up and we can have some good conversations. See if I can. Yeah, the guest box is open. You just have to hit the little purple or pink and blue people next to the text box, and then that will pop up the thing for you to request. Okay. Um, all right, got a couple people requesting, so I'll bring up the first person of the evening. Just make sure that if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, that you're 18 plus and you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Yeah. Hi, 231. Are you at least 18?
Yes, I'm 48. Thank you.
Okay. And what God do you believe in?
The one and only God, the God from the Bible.
Which Bible? The Christian Bible or the Jewish Bible?
They're both one and the same, but
No, the Jewish God is not a trinity and doesn't have never came to earth as a human. The Christian God, both of those things are true about the Christian God. So obviously there's a difference. So which Bible?
I believe in them both. To be honest with you, I believe in
No,
the
no,
Old
you
Testament
don't,
and the New
because
Testament.
either you believe that Jesus,
Wait,
either you
hold on a
believe.
second, you silly
Stop.
Willie. What you trying to tell me? What I believe?
Okay, so either you believe that Jesus is the Son of God or you don't. Which is the case? You can unmute yourself. Do you believe that Jesus is the
Do
incarnation of God or not?
do you have a superiority complex or
Okay,
something?
fair enough. I mean, if you can't answer that simple of a question, then obviously we're not able to have a productive conversation. It's really, really easy. Either you do believe that Jesus is the Son of God or you don't. I don't really care which it is. I just need you to tell me which it is so that we can actually have the fucking conversation. Let me see. Interesting. All right. So yeah, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Thank you so much for the support, both Bear and Lobes. Just one quick maintenance thing I need to do, and then I can bring up the next person. Give me one quick moment here. We'll do one of these, and then we'll do. What the fuck? Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I'll bring up the next person. Like I said, make sure you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God. Hi, Jesse. Are you at least 18?
Yes. Jesse? Is that what you said? Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That's what it says, right? Jesse James?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what God do you believe in?
I believe in a God, but as an undefined God. Basically, the God of the Bible, but it looks like all that stuff's bullshit.
Okay, well, I don't know really what to make of what you're saying. I just need you
Well,
to tell me what you believe in, so I know what we're talking about. I'm not trying to this isn't a gotcha question. I'm not trying to lock you into something that you don't want to commit to.
no,
I'm
it's
just genuinely
understandable.
asking what you actually believe, and if you
I
can't
feel
answer that simple of a question, then we're not going to be able to have a conversation.
It's the God of the Torah. I believe the God in the Torah.
Fantastic. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Only just recently happened upon the evidence was just the effort and the money spent to secret societies doing all this weird things. I know it's blackmail, but what is up with that?
I have
If there's
no idea,
something
and
like
that all that
wouldn't
tells
there
us is
be
that
the opposite?
Jesse, all that tells
Yeah,
us is that
duality. I'm sorry.
all that tells us is that those people believe in something. That doesn't tell us whether the thing that they believe in is true. What I'm concerned with, and the only thing I care about, and as far as this conversation goes, is whether or not it's true that a God exists. So what would be some argument or evidence
Yes,
that would give
a
us reason
God
to think it's
exists.
true that a God exists?
There's so many evidences.
Well,
Everything
saying there's so
exists.
many,
Everything.
Jesse, if you asked me the evidence for atheism and my response was there's so much evidence, you would think that was a pretty stupid thing to say, right? And I should have just given you the evidence instead of
You are
saying that.
God, dude. You are God. You are a conscious thing that has
I am not God.
evolved
Obviously,
with
I
the-
exist, and I am not God. So I'll ask you one last time: is there any argument or evidence that provides rational justification to believe in a God? And if so, what is it?
There is absolutely no rational or evidence to believe
Okay,
in
I
any
agree.
kind of God.
And so believing in a God is irrational. Thank you for admitting that. Hopefully you will see your way out of that irrationality soon. I hope you have a good one.
Thank you.
I don't really know. Why is TikTok being stupid? I don't really know the point of that. Okay. As I've said multiple times over and over and over again, the point here is for you guys to actually provide some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God. If you can't do that, then don't request. Also, don't request unless you're at least 18, preferably older than that. Hi, Werewolf. Are you at least 18?
Yeah.
Okay. What God do you believe in?
Jesus Christ.
Cool. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Well, I would say that everything is almost too perfect to haven't even existed. If you go back into quantum physics and science.
Are you a physicist?
No, but I do a lot
Okay,
of
so-
research.
Well, I'm not a physicist, and you're not a physicist, so we should probably stay in our own lane and talk about stuff that we actually have, enough
I
knowledge
thought you
about to
said
speak on.
present an argument, and I was trying to present an argument with facts.
Well, I mean, you're not. You're trying
Well,
to
I mean,
go
you've
outside
had
of
a
your
couple
lane.
of people. You've had a couple of people come in here and not even talk about anything, and the first guy that tries to, you want to shut me down. So you know what? Good luck, buddy.
Just because I pointed out the fact that you're not a physicist,
It's all right. Good luck, buddy.
you're just gonna rage quit and cry because I pointed out that you're not a physicist. Fair enough. All right. So yeah, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Jay. Are you at least 18? If you're off the app, I can't hear you.
Yo, 18 years old was good.
Yeah, and what God do you believe in?
Oh, I believe in the one and only God, sir.
Yeah, which one is that, though? I don't know which
There's only
God you
one
believe
God,
in.
sir. The God
I
that sent
understand.
his only son to die for us, Jesus. The
Okay.
one God.
Okay, so you could have just said...
Nope, I said the one God, the only true God, and you know what I meant.
No, no, I don't. That's the thing, is that Muslims say that, Jewish people can say that. Literally anyone who's monotheistic can say, "Oh, I believe in the one true God," because
There's only
obviously
one God,
they
man.
believe there's one God. Every monotheistic
You can
believes
go in
that.
dispute, but there's only one
Okay,
God.
so you need to stop talking and listen to what I'm fucking saying to you, or you can get the fuck out of here.
You're
What
getting
I'm
real
trying to
mad, buddy.
explain to you is that every monotheist believes that there's only one God. So if
Oh,
I'm
I heard you,
asking you
buddy.
what God you believe in, telling me you believe in the one true God only tells
Ears
me
are
that you're a
open.
monotheist. It doesn't tell me which God you believe in. I don't know
Ears
why
are open.
Christians like you are so ashamed of being Christian that you can't just admit that you're Christian. It's really
Ears are
strange.
open.
But now that you've established that you're a Christian, what is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Ears are open, and my evidence is me and you literally talking right now. Me and you are walking not miracles, but like the literal definition of no chance. There would have been no chance besides God that we are talking right now.
I mean, that's certainly a claim. What is the evidence for that claim?
I'll be right back. Can I go look? Can I go get the evidence or no?
No, the whole point was to give the whole point was to be to the
I'm
whole
dead as
point
hell.
of yeah, exactly. The whole point of requesting up was to provide the argument or evidence. If you don't have the argument or evidence, why in the fuck would you request? That's ridiculous. Wow, so much support already. Thank you, everybody. Lobes and Bear and Poopman Jones, thank you so much. Serenity, Rin, Lem, Mickey, man, you guys are going nuts. Slice, thank you so much for the support. I sincerely appreciate it. So yeah, currently don't have anybody requesting. If you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, feel free to request up. Lobes. I should, there is actually a way. Oh, maybe I'm just not smart enough. Nope, I'm not smart enough. Okay. Oh, shit. Man, I'm just struggling over here. Okay. We'll bring up the next guest.
6, 7.
Okay, fair enough. Guest, are you at least 18?
No,
No, you're not at least 18?
I'm 18. I'm 46. Sorry.
Okay. And what God do you believe in?
I believe in God, not in human God, but in
No,
my
I
own understanding.
Okay, I just need you to tell me what God you believe in so I know what we're talking about.
Well, I grew up in a Judo, Jewish, Christian, whatever, but Abrahamic God in general. But,
Okay, so you're kind of like a Yahwist, maybe?
yeah, but no, I don't believe in that now. But I believe in God. I mean, after observing how after understanding a little bit how immense, vast the universe is, I don't think every existence, physical or non-physical, happen to be here from nothing. I believe there is some force.
Okay, so you
though
believe in
humanity-
like a mind that created the universe, that kind of thing?
100%.
Okay,
Maybe
fantastic.
1 million.
And then one other
maybe
question
the
that I
alien
have for you.
created us.
One other question I have for you before we get into it. I can't read your username. What should I call you?
You can call me Z.
Okay, just like the letter Z.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. So you believe in a God. I don't believe in a God. What would you say is the best argument or evidence that would give me rational justification to believe that a God does in fact exist?
Well, I was here just to ask you because you say you don't believe in God, and I understand that. Maybe you meant not to believe in a God of human God. That does not make sense to me.
I'm not talking about a human.
Uh-huh.
I'm just asking you, what is at least one reason to believe in the God that you believe in?
I see you. Look at you. Look at you. You are very complicated. I see your vital, non-vital organ. I see the galaxy, the solar system, the stars, the wind, everything living and non-living things that exist can be observed by naked eye. I don't think this happened to be from nothing. I don't believe this is the result of Big Bang or whatever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, sir?
I understand what you're saying, my question though is like that's all just telling me what you believe. We've already established what you believe. I don't need you to tell me again what you believe. I'm asking, why do you believe in that?
Why?
Yeah.
What kind of question is it? What's your name?
Ogar?
Oh God. I mean, I mean, look at me. I go to bed, I sleep, I wake up in the morning. I have every memory. I remember my password.
That's fine.
remember
I don't
you.
none of this matters. Like, this isn't
Oh,
relevant. Do you understand the
this
question that I'm
matter.
asking you?
No, not really.
Okay, so the question that I'm asking you isn't what you believe. The question I'm asking is, why do you believe what you believe? So I need you to say, like, the reason I think a God exists, or the reason I think that the universe must have been created by a God is, and then just complete that sentence. What is the reason?
Exactly. Because
Yeah, so complete the
I
sentence.
believe I drive a Honda car, and that car is made by you and me, human.
That's no,
So
why
therefore,
do
the universe must have been killed. Oh
Okay,
God.
so are you saying that because we know of some things that were built then or were created,
Exactly.
then the universe must
Exactly.
also have been created?
Exactly.
Okay, so it basically what it sounds like you're saying is that everything that exists must have been created. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Okay, and does God exist?
Well, what kind of God? I mean,
The God you
the
believe in.
God,
Does the God you believe in exist?
100%, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm gonna show you what I think the issue is with what you're saying, because you're saying that everything that exists must have been created, and then you're also saying that God exists. So the only reasonable conclusion we can draw is that God must have been created. The problem is that if God was created, then God isn't ultimate. But we already agreed that if God exists, then God is ultimate. And what that tells us is that God doesn't exist. So, because of the principle that you've introduced into this conversation, everything that exists must have been created, the only rational conclusion to draw from that is that God doesn't exist. So, because we now have, reached the conclusion based on the view that you're presenting that God must not exist, I think that you probably want to adjust that principle and give a different reason to believe in a God. Otherwise, you need to agree that God doesn't exist.
Really, it just doesn't make sense to me. I
Okay.
mean,
Well,
look,
basically, what I'm telling you is that either this is false or God doesn't exist. Those are your only two options.
well,
So,
God,
so there are only two options in front of you right now.
maybe
The first option
wisdom of God.
is
Well,
premise one is false. You could take that option and recant the thing that you said. Or the second option is God doesn't exist. Which of those two options which of these two things do you think is true? Is it true that premise one is false, or is it true that God doesn't exist?
God exists. Not,
Okay,
not
so then
beyond
you're
God.
saying that it must be true that this premise one is false?
I cannot read that. I'm on my phone.
Yeah, it says everything that exists must have been created. That was what you said, and I'm showing you that if it's true that everything that exists must have been created, then it's also true that God doesn't exist. So in order for you to continue your position that God exists and not be irrational, you would have to change your position and say that this is false. That it's false that everything that must have been that exists must have been created.
My friend, look, I came here to ask you because
Z, I need
saw
you to
your
engage
title.
with what I'm saying.
I look, maybe let me, if you allow me to speak just 1 minute only, okay? Look,
No, Z. No, what you can
no,
do
okay.
now, what you're trying to
Uh,
do, you're trying to pretend like I'm being a jerk by trying to make you actually
no,
talk about the
I didn't.
conversation.
That's not even my nature to call you that.
I didn't say
No,
you were
no, sir.
calling me a jerk. What you're trying to do, though, is make it seem like I'm being a jerk for not letting you talk and ramble on about whatever you want to
Exactly.
ramble about.
You are not allowing me to talk. At
Right,
least
I am
one
not going to
just
allow you,
listen to me.
Z, I am not going to allow you to ramble about irrelevant stuff. We are at a very specific
What
impasse
makes
in
you
this.
that
Z,
irrelevant? What
Z,
makes you
Z,
not to believe in
Z,
God?
stop.
Yes.
What you need to understand is that we're at an impasse in the conversation right now, and the only way that we can move forward is for you to either say the principle you introduced about everything that exists needing to have been created is false, or you have to agree that God doesn't exist. Those are your two options in front of you right now. Which of those do you want to take so that we can move forward? We cannot move forward until you choose one of those options.
The problem is you are not listening to
No,
me, sir.
because we can't move forward until you choose one of those
What?
options. As soon as you choose one of those options, Z,
No,
you need to stop. You need to calm down and lock the fuck in. You either choose one of these two options, and then you can talk as much as you want, as long as it's relevant, or I move on. So the next thing out of your mouth is either choosing one of those two options, or a concession that you know God doesn't exist. You need to unmute yourself and respond. Z, you have to unmute yourself.
Listen, all I'm saying is you
Nope,
need
you
to
stop.
unmute
No,
yourself.
Z, you have to
You see?
you have to choose one of those. If you don't choose one,
No.
I'm dropping you. This is your last chance.
I was created by God. You
Okay,
are
fair
not.
enough. Yeah, I'm trying to give him every opportunity, Poopman Jones, genuinely. But you know, what do you do? Thank you so much, I Poop You Poop, and Jennifer, and Bob is Anti-Theist. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the support. Saintly. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you. Oh no, you're good, Poopman Jones. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. What in the fuck? TikTok Studio so fucking stupid sometimes. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next person. If you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining the guest queue, please make sure that you are 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Booch. Are you at least 18?
Yes, sir. I'm 18.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
I believe in the Jesus Christ God.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
I would say if you let me put my fat cock on your asshole, I would just squirt in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it sounds fun, but it's not relevant to the conversation here. Christian troll. Fair enough. All right. If you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, feel free to request up. Also, it is Pride Month, so it's not like I'm going to act like there's something wrong with, gay sex acts. I mean, I am in a monogamous relationship, so I'm not actually going to engage in gay sex acts with anybody because I am in a monogamous relationship with a woman, but
hello.
Nothing wrong with it. Hi, Word and Sword. Are you at least 18?
Yeah, I'm a grown man, yeah.
Fair enough. I get frustrated talking to, I mean, I feel like even the like 18 to 25-year-olds are kids, so I appreciate
I get it.
I appreciate when somebody comes up that's, not 19.
Yeah, no, I get it.
What God do you believe in? I'm assuming the Christian God?
Yeah, Yahweh.
Cool. Awesome. Well, obviously, I'm an atheist. My goal here is to have good faith conversations about whether or not there's justification to believe in a God. So my question to you is, what would be the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe that God does exist?
Are you familiar with the Kalam cosmological argument?
I'm very familiar. Do you want to present it, or I can just rattle it off?
I'll say what I remember off the top of my head, because it kind of goes with what you were saying. You were saying that everything that exists is created. And then your second premise is God exists, therefore is created. But the flaw I see in that, I'm going to bring it from the Kalam cosmological argument, is that not everything that exists was created. For example, in the law of thermodynamics, energy is not created nor destroyed. So energy does exist, but it's not created. So therefore, the premise would be flawed. And so how I'm bringing in the cosmological argument, that is, anything that begins to exist has a cause and a creator.
Mm-hmm.
Since the universe has a beginning, therefore it must have a cause and a creator. But just like the law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Therefore, something must have always existed to create something, because nothing can't create something. Therefore, philosophically, religious people believe that God is the something that always existed that's uncreated.
Sure. One sec. Good to see you too, Moon, as always. But yeah, what I want, here's going to be a couple things I want to respond to. Number one, I think you're exactly right. That previous guest, Z, was that what I was trying to do, and maybe I just went about it a bad way, I don't know, but what I was trying to do is get the point across to him that you understood. You understood the point that I was making, which was if you say everything must have had a cause or must have been created, then that would have to apply to God too. You don't want to say that, and that's what I was trying to communicate to Z. And like I said, it sounds like you understand that. I will caution you because I want you to have the best opportunity possible for to win this debate. I will caution you. I think that you gave too strong of a first premise. And I don't think that you want to give such a strong first premise because it's going to make the argument a lot harder for you. Because what you said was,
myself in.
Yeah, I think that you're painting yourself into a corner, and I'm not here to try to jump on a wording mistake or an error that you made and then pretend like I'm crushing you. You know what I mean?
No, this is fine. In my, just so you know how I'm different than other people, I don't mind if you try to, crush the debate and give me all the hardest objections ever, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be taking the hard questions, and if you stump me on something, then I need to go research and figure it out and how to present it better. So it's fine. I mean, I kind of know what you're saying with the whole law of thermodynamics. Nothing can be created or destroyed, therefore energy always created. I was just using that towards your assumption.
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't making the assumption that everything that exists must have been created. That was a premise that the previous guest put forward. And then I was showing what I would call a reductio, showing that if he held that position, it would lead to the conclusion God doesn't exist. And so I was trying to tell him he doesn't really want to hold that position. And I'm trying to do the same thing for you right now, because when you gave the kalam, what you said was everything that begins to exist has a cause and a creator. I think that's way, way too strong of a premise. I think you just want to stick with cause, and then we get to the universe as a cause, and then you would go to like a second stage where then you would show that cause was a creator. I don't think you want to box yourself into creator in this first stage of the kalam. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm applying the creator to the uncaused first cause. So when I say
but that's what I mean is that's what I mean that like you can I know that you want to argue that the cause for the universe must have been a creator. I just don't think that you want to put that into the argument until we get to that point. So because then you're gonna have a lot harder of a road ahead of you, because I'm just gonna bring up a bunch of stuff that clearly doesn't have things that don't clearly don't have creators, and then you're going to have to bite the bullet that those things don't have creators, and your argument fails. So instead of going down that road and making it seem like I've won a point against you, I just want to head that off now. The formulation of the argument that I think is best is just everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Is that fair?
I would say, the universe has a cause, but then who created the cause? That's why I
and that's
the creator.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though, is that you don't want to put the creator in there until after that. You know what I'm saying? I think that you just started trying to get the creator into the argument too early. I think you're painting yourself into a corner by trying to talk about a creator too early.
Oh yeah, no problem. I know I'm doing that. I just kind of was clarifying that, So the Kalam-Kolasmo argument is anything that begins to exist has a cause, right?
Yep.
And so what I'm saying is the uncaused first cause is the creator.
Yeah, so that's like the second stage. Yeah, no problem. I'm with you 100%. So my biggest concern here with this argument is going to be the second premise: the universe began to exist. I don't know of any reason why anyone should believe that. It seems like we don't have enough evidence to come to that conclusion. So
the Big Bang wouldn't be evidence?
Oh, no.
Or the cosmic, what is it, radiation background?
You're talking about the cosmic microwave background radiation?
Yeah, that wouldn't be sufficient evidence to show that there was a beginning to the universe and that it didn't always exist?
No. What that tells us is that the expansion of the universe began. That doesn't tell us anything about the universe itself beginning to exist. It's kind of this is an analogy that I use all the time. Like if I have a bag of balloons in my drawer and I'm going to a party, so I open up the bag and I put one of the balloons in my pocket, and then at the party, I pull it out of my pocket and I start blowing it up. If you were at that party and you walked into the room as I'm already blowing up the balloon, you wouldn't assume, oh, since the balloon is expanding, it must have began existing when it began expanding. That would be an insane thing to conclude, because obviously balloons already, they're made in a factory, and then they get packaged, and then they're distributed to stores, and then you have to go to the store and you buy them, and then you bring them home and you put them. So like when a balloon began expanding has literally nothing to do with when it began existing. And I'm saying that that's the same with the universe. We know when it began expanding. We know a lot of stuff about the beginning of the expansion, but that doesn't tell us anything about whether the universe began to exist or not. So we cannot appeal to the Big Bang. In fact, I have if you want to see it, there was a really, really big survey. Almost 1,700 physicists and cosmologists responded about what the Big Bang is, and the response was the Big Bang is just a hot, dense state, the universe expanding from a hot, dense state that may or may not correspond to a beginning of time. So, and that was almost 70% of about 1,700 professional, physicists and cosmologists and whatever that were included in this study. So, like, what that tells us is that the current scientific understanding is that the Big Bang says nothing about the universe beginning. So I'm just trying to explain that to you in a couple different ways, why I don't think we can appeal to the Big Bang for the beginning of the universe. So you would have to go to something else.
Well, I like that because I like your analogy because, so if, like we said, maybe the universe existed in a hot, dense state, but then became galaxies, stars, and all of these things began to create. Even in your own analogy, you said if I walked into the party and I saw the balloon, blowing up, you're pushing it all the way back to manufacturing. But what I see is there was a cause and a creator to this balloon expanding. Therefore, I feel like your analogy could be analogous to the universe expanding.
Yeah, I think you're focusing on the wrong part of the analogy. That part of the analogy isn't analogous. The only thing I was trying to point out with the balloon analogy, whoa, thanks, Poopman Jones. The only thing I was trying to point out with the balloon analogy is just that the beginning of the expansion isn't necessarily also the beginning of the existence. Obviously, in the balloon example, it is the case that there is an intelligent agent involved with that expansion. But the argument that you're trying to make is that there's an intelligent agent involved in the expansion of the universe, and that's what you need to demonstrate. And currently, the way you're trying to demonstrate that is with the Kalam argument. But the only way for the Kalam to work is for you to demonstrate that it is reasonable to believe that the universe began to exist. So that's what I'm asking you to do. You tried to do that by appealing to the Big Bang. I've explained to you, hopefully well enough, that the Big Bang doesn't give us any reason to believe the universe began to exist. So now we need a different reason to think that the universe began to exist.
Got it. Okay, so two things. One, I would like to see counter evidence to show that the universe is not finite. Like the universe always existed. The only thing that
that's not necessary. That's not necessary.
The universe was in a different state.
I'm not making the claim. I'm not making the claim that the universe is infinite, past infinite. I'm not making that claim. However,
you are negating that it doesn't have a beginning.
No,
you can't confirm that it was infinite.
I'm trying to explain. I'm not taking the position that the universe has an infinite past. However, you are taking the position that the universe definitely has a finite past. And so since you're making a positive claim, I'm simply saying, I'm not saying the opposite is true. I'm simply saying I have no reason to agree that what you're claiming unless you give me a reason. So I'm asking you for a reason to think that the universe did begin to exist at some point.
Okay, no problem. So I'll try to incorporate are you familiar with the teleological argument for the existence of God?
Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to move away from the Kalam to a different argument.
No, I'm gonna.
Okay, so either well, here's the thing, Word. Either we're still on the Kalam, and you need to show that the universe began to exist, or at least show some reason to think the universe began to exist. Or if you want to talk about the teleological argument, then you need to agree that the Kalam failed, at least in this instance.
I'm going to use it to address...
no, the teleological argument can't give us a reason to believe that the universe existed. The most that you could do with the... Hold on, Word. The most that you could do with the teleological argument is give that argument, convince me that God exists, and then convince me that because God exists, the universe began. But that would be abandoning the Kalam, because if you were still trying to give the Kalam, that would make it circular. So, because then what you're trying to do is you're saying the universe began to exist because God exists, and you can tell God exists because the universe began to exist. So that's a circular argument.
Circular. I get
so,
that.
Okay, so your two options right now, Word, are to either continue with the Kalam and provide some reason for me to think that the universe began, or give up on the Kalam and we can move to the teleological argument.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on with the Kalam, but it's going to naturally... it's going to naturally, with my clarification, bring in the teleological, not even like on accident. It's just going to naturally happen because you're saying that scientists were saying that the universe must have always existed.
No, I didn't. I didn't say that.
Or existed
I did not say
in a
that.
hot, dense state? Or was it a hot, dense state that you said?
Prior, when the expansion began, the universe was in a hot, dense state. We don't have any reason to form any beliefs about the state of the universe prior to that.
So if the universe was in a hot, dense state, are we saying that the universe is eternal?
No.
Then what would it be if it's not finite and not temporal, and the universe was always in a hot, dense state? Then is that not eternal?
I have no reason to think that it couldn't have been temporal. What I'm saying is that here's the problem right now, where you are making a positive claim, and then you're acting like I'm making a positive claim in response, and you're trying to say that since I can't support the positive claim you think I'm making, then your claim goes through. But that's not how that's not what, both of those things are wrong. I'm not making the positive claim that the universe is eternal, so you need to stop referring to that as though I'm making that claim. And number two, even if there isn't a reason to think that the universe is eternal, that doesn't give us a reason to believe that the universe is finite. Your job here in this dialectic, your dialectical burden is to provide some demonstration that we should believe that the universe is finite into the past, right? That there was a beginning of the universe's existence. So that's what you're supposed to be doing right now. And it feels like I keep asking you this question over and over and over again. And every time I ask, you try to pivot to a different argument. You try to straw man my position. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to stop doing those things, please, and simply focus on giving me at least one reason to believe that the universe began to exist.
So I believe, like I said, just with the discovery of the Big Bang, and even like, I'm not trying to steel man you, but even in your own explanation, you said, well, we don't know that the universe had a beginning. You need to prove it. But you're also, just want to clarify, asserting that the universe is not eternal. And so you're giving it a little bit
I didn't do that either. You're just straw manning me again, Word.
So yeah.
If you straw man me one more time, I'm just going to drop you. I'm really sick of this at this point. Like, you're being, you're being polite, like you are being kind, but you're also being an asshole. You are being an asshole. And I am going to, the longer you continue being an asshole to me, the more rude I'm going to get towards you. I'm going to match what I get from you. And if what I'm getting from you is ignoring what I'm saying and then straw manning my positions, then I'm going to be an asshole back. Okay?
So can you please steel man your position so that I don't misinterpret you?
I'm saying that I don't have a position on whether the universe is finite or infinite. You do have a position, and so in order to convince me that your position is correct, you need to provide some argument or evidence that would give me a reason to conclude that the universe did begin to exist at some point. So what you should not be doing is talking about any of my beliefs, because I don't have a position on this. What you should not be doing is talking about the Big Bang, because we've already talked about how that doesn't apply here. What you should not be doing is pivoting to a different argument like the teleological argument, because as I explained before, as soon as you do that, as an attempt to support this argument, you make this argument circular. So if you want to continue talking about the Kalam, what you need to do, without referring to any of my positions or positions you think I hold, or referring to the Big Bang, provide some reason for me to think that the universe began to exist. Do you understand?
No problem. Yeah, so from my scholarly consensus that I'm looking at, scholarly consensus is that the universe had a beginning and it started with the Big Bang. If you are asserting
which scholars?
That it was the scholar, I just looked, is the Big Bang the beginning of the universe? And on, just Google Gemini says the scholar.
Yeah. AI is going to tell you what it thinks you want to hear. AI is not trustworthy. That's why I brought up actual data, actual information of over 1,700 experts being polled, and 70% of them telling us that the Big Bang doesn't give us any reason to believe that the universe began to exist. So again, you can't, if you appeal to the Big Bang again, I'm just going to assume that you're not actually listening to me.
Well, I am listening to you, but you are using counter evidence by saying, hey, I'm saying that the universe did not, these scholars are saying the universe did not have.
No, they're not. AI is not a scholar. You need to give me names.
No. I mean, yeah, if I wasn't driving, I probably could.
Oh, if you're driving, then I have to let you go. That's against terms of service. Yeah, you can't be up here while you're driving. Yeah, I mean, that started off really good faith. It just became pretty clear that as soon as he realized that he couldn't demonstrate his position, all he had was straw manning and appealing to AI. Okay, so if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. What I will tell you is that begging in the chat to join is never going to work. If anything, I'm going to go to people who are after you before you because begging in the chat is annoying as fuck. Yeah, I don't understand Greenball, and I certainly don't understand looking up, asking AI questions while you're driving and having a debate. Well, that's very kind of you, I poop, you poop, but that's certainly not true. I mean, I appreciate the compliment. Oh, thanks for the support, Lupine, and 3 pips, and fucking, holy shit, everybody else. I poop, you poop, Jennifer. Goddamn. Hi, Juice Boy. Are you at least 18?
There we go. Pinche audífono no andaba saliendo.
Are you at least 18?
My bad. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm a man, brother.
You're okay.
Oh, my bad.
Cool. And what God do you believe in?
God.
Yeah, which one?
To put it simply,
that's ambiguous. That's ambiguous.
Yeah.
Everyone who believes in a God would say that they believe in God. So which God do you believe
true.
in?
The one God.
Oh my God. Dude,
Look,
everyone who is all that tells me is that you're a
Look,
monotheist.
okay.
I'm going to ask you one more time, and if you're too embarrassed of your beliefs to tell me what God you believe in, I'm just going to move on. What God do you believe in?
All right, brother. The Christian God.
Okay.
To put it in a labelistic term.
I don't know why Christians are so embarrassed to admit that they're Christian. Well, I mean, I do, because obviously being a Christian is cringe as fuck. But what's the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
You know? All right, bro. Well, for one, existence, but like that's a little thing. Hold on, I want to backtrack real quick. What was that information you found about like the Big Bang Theory? I'm actually really curious about that. I want to learn it a bit more myself.
Yeah. So back, I think it was like in 2024. If you ask me a question, you can't talk over me while I'm trying to answer. So back in back in like 2024, I believe, there was this guy, Phil Halper, who was at a conference of like physicists and cosmologists in Copenhagen. And he and I think 2 other people conducted a survey of the physicists there. It was a pretty small survey. They only got like 60 respondents to the questions. But that one showed that of those people surveyed, those experts, there was about 70% of them that said that the Big Bang tells us nothing about whether the universe had a beginning. And then there was a magazine, I can't remember if it's like Popular Science or I can't remember what magazine it was, that commissioned Phil Halper and his co-authors to do another survey, a much bigger survey. So they conducted another survey of they sent out thousands and thousands of questionnaires. They got responses from a little under 2,000 experts. And the question, about the meaning of the Big Bang, what the Big Bang tells us, the same exact percentage, 68%, as in the previous survey. In the bigger survey, it was the exact same percentage, 68%, who said that the Big Bang tells us it's simply a theory about the expansion of the universe, and it tells us nothing about whether the universe had a beginning. So if we're talking about whether the universe had a beginning, like, for example, for the purposes of the Kalam cosmological argument, like in the last conversation, what that means is that you cannot appeal to the Big Bang as a reason to think that the universe had a beginning.
Real.
Holy shit. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Like, the Big Bang is the start of the expansion, right?
Correct. And as my balloon analogy was intended, was intended to show, the beginning of the expansion is not necessarily the beginning of its existence. So what are you trying to discuss the Kalam or what's happening right now?
No, actually, I was. I'm like in the middle of like doing chores and shit like that. So
okay, so you don't have an argument or evidence
to his evidence. Yeah, I do. So check it. We all pretty much have like a basic understanding to each other what is good and moral towards one another, right? Like a basic human understanding. And God created human. He obviously created also morality. Now, people throughout time we have lost.
I mean, these are just claims that you're making. what I'm
I mean,
looking for.
the things inside of the things inside of magazines you read are also just claims and opinion from people with
No,
paper.
no, because they actually provide
And
the
I,
evidence, and that's what I'm asking you to do, and you're not doing it. So why should I think that God exists? Are you saying that if morals exist, God exists, morals exist, therefore God exists?
I'm saying like consciousness and the existence like of that morality that we all share together
Right.
is
It
shared
sounds like you're trying to
consciousness.
give the moral argument for God. It sounds like what you're saying is if objective morals exist, then God exists. Objective morals exist, therefore God exists. Is that the argument you're trying to
Yeah,
give?
we all kind of share that. Yeah,
I
that
just
is
need you
part
to
of the
answer
argument.
directly. Is that the argument that you're giving? Is
Yes.
this the argument you're giving?
Yeah, I'm sharing that.
Okay, fantastic. So, I think that this argument fails, and I can explain why. I think that I don't think that there's any way for
People suck.
what?
Let's be real there. I said because people suck.
No,
It's hard to balance and
no.
put morals in
This
front of it
argument
all.
fails. This argument fails because there's no way for you to support the second premise that doesn't destroy the argument. Because either you're going to support the second premise without appealing to God, which would then disprove premise one, so you would have ruined the argument, or you're going to try to demonstrate the second premise is true without an appeal to God, but that just makes the argument circular because you're saying God exists because morals exist, and morals exist because God exists, which reduces the argument to God exists because God exists, and that's not actually an argument. So I don't think that the moral argument works, and you probably want to move to something else.
All right, right on. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so do you have anything else?
Limiting God to finite boxes and things.
I'm not limiting God. I'm just saying that the argument that you gave doesn't lead to the conclusion that you want it to lead to. That's all I'm doing. I'm not limiting God. I'm not telling you what the definition of God is or what God can or can't do. I'm simply telling you that the logic for the argument that you gave doesn't work. So, do you have a different argument, or do you want to try to fight back against my, takedown of your argument that you've given?
I was kind of just hoping we'd be able to just have a rational discussion here.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm asking you how you want to proceed. So how do you want to proceed? Your two options are to either refute my refutation of your argument or give a different argument.
Let me bounce off of something from you.
Okay, you want me to give an argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm
a
going
Christian,
to.
right? But I don't follow the common Christian doctrine.
That's fine.
I believe it's been corrupted and it's misread so much.
Sure, I can provide an argument. What I'm going to do is what I'm going to do is just give you each premise and ask you whether you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, I'll try to give you a reason to agree with it. And if you do agree with it, I'll move to the next one. Is that fair?
Sounds good, man.
Okay. And sorry, just taking some notes here so I remember what we're talking about, or what we did talk about. Okay, so what I'm going to say is that my claim is that God has a mind. Do you agree?
Agreed.
Okay, fantastic. So that's premise one. Premise two, minds either have changing mental states or only one unchanging mental state.
Minds have a learning mental state.
No, what I'm saying is that
changing.
Yeah, I know that most minds have changing mental states, but what I'm saying is that the most fundamental thing in order for a mind to be a mind is it has to have at least one mental state. So either a mind has only one mental state, or it would have a series of changing mental states. Obviously, human mental states, as we experience them, are changing mental states over time, but I'm just saying, like, it is possible. The only two possibilities for a mind is to either only have one mental state that never changes, or to have a series of changing mental states. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you agree, or my next premise, I should say, is that change only occurs in time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because you can't change unless there ain't no time.
Right. And then I think that most Christians agree with this, but my next claim is that God exists outside of time. Do you agree with that?
See, that's crazy because that's like a fluctuation. Because God exists here now, in my understanding, through time, but also lives outside of time. God was before we put a definition on time, and God also in a sense, functions outside ahead of our time.
Okay,
But
well,
we can't know ahead of our time.
so I think that there's a problem with what you're saying because you're endorsing a contradiction right now, and contradictions are not true. So here, let me put it on the screen, and I'll explain to you what the problem is.
Okay.
So any contradiction is going to be like, X is true and X is not true are both true, right? That's a contradiction where you're saying something is true and not true at the same time. And that can never be the case, but that's what you're doing right now. So what you're saying, because the way that I'll put this is either God experiences the passage of moments or he
With
does
us.
not. And then if God experiences the passage of moments, he is inside time and not outside time. If God does not experience the passage of moments, he is outside time and not inside time. So what we can conclude is that God is either inside time or outside time, but not both, right? So it cannot possibly be both. So either God is in time or out of time. Which is the case? Which do you believe?
Hold on, man. See, because the way I see God is kind of odd, right? Not kind of
I just
odd.
need you to
It's like
directly answer. I just need you to directly answer the question that I'm asking you. Is God inside time or outside time?
both of them, but he's in time.
Okay, so that's
so to say.
okay. So either he's inside time or he's outside time. Which is it?
Look, brother. All right, let me say this.
It's only one of the
because-
two. It's only one of the two.
Look,
So which of the two is it?
Someone for not speaking and stuff and speaking over you, I'm gonna get snappy on you too, man.
No, I'm going to
God
speak over
exists
you when
far
you're.
out
I'm
there.
going to speak over you, and it turns out I even am going to have to mute you if you are going to run away from the conversation. So your dialectical burden right now is to respond to my argument, and the options are, well, you actually have three options. I've only been verbalizing two, but you have three options. You can reject the syllogism that's currently on the screen and try to say like the inference doesn't work or something like that, and we could discuss it. Second option is you can say that God is inside time, and the third option is you can say God is outside of time. So which of those three do you want to do? And it has to be one of those three, or I'm just going to take it as a concession and move on. You need to unmute yourself.
Oh, I need to unmute myself. All right. We'll go ahead and handle what the God is in time because God is
Okay.
omnipresent and experiences life
Fantastic.
and living throughout us,
Okay.
throughout you too.
Okay. So if God exists, God is ultimate. If God is inside time, God is not ultimate. God is inside time. God does not exist. So which of those three premises would you reject?
Dude, you're a wonder, man, because you don't even let me show you how I know God.
No, because I'm showing you the problem with your view, and until we resolve the problem
Like I
with your
just
view, there's
said.
no way for us to move forward. So in order for us to move forward in this conversation, what you have to do is provide some reason, or you need to respond to this argument that I put on the screen. So if God exists, God is ultimate. And what I mean by ultimate is simply that everything else that exists relies on him. Right? He is like the ontological grounding of everything else that exists. Everything else that exists depends on God for its existence. That's what ultimate means. If God exists, that is one of God's properties, being ultimate. However, if God is inside time, then that means that time does not rely on God. It's not dependent on God for its existence, which would mean that God wouldn't be ultimate. And you're saying that God is inside time, and since we know that that means God's not ultimate, but if he exists, he is ultimate, then that means that God doesn't exist. So again, you either need to reject 1, 2, or 3, or you need to agree that God doesn't exist.
All right, look, check it out. You're putting me inside of a box here because, like I say,
I'm just
right,
trying to
I
make
see
sure that
God
we
in a
stay
different-
logical in this conversation. If you don't want to have a logical conversation, then you don't want to talk to me. So your
Hey,
options
cool.
are,
Because you're
again,
being illogical too, brother. Because
I'm
I'm
not
trying
being
to explain to
illogical. I'm
you how
explicitly
I
being
see
logical. I'm explicitly
and
showing
where
you the
God
logic.
is.
Juice Boy, I'm explicitly showing
Uh-huh.
you the logic here. It's literally not possible to be more logical than I'm being right now. So I am being logical. You're trying to get out of
Be
logic, and I'm
logical
not
by
going to
listening.
allow it. So your options, again, are to either reject a premise, reject the inference, or agree that God doesn't exist. Which of those which of those three do you want to do?
I'm gonna choose option 4. God is more than what you think He is.
All right. Well, thank you for the concession. And I just remembered to put his name up on the YouTube too. I'm really bad at that. I'll tell you right now, Schizo, begging in the chat to be let up is a really good way to make sure that I don't let you up. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining the guest queue, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, V Project, are you at least 18? V Project, are you?
Yes. Can you hear me good?
I can. What God do you believe in?
I don't believe in a religion, so my definition
I didn't
of
say
a God
anything
would be
about a
better.
religion. What God do you believe in?
All right, cool. Just stating it. For the listeners, I believe the definition of a God would be a conscious being that can be in different or all points in time at will or so, and omnipotent.
So then you are you're then providing the same problem that the other person said. If you think that God is at all points in time, then that means God is inside time, but that would mean that God is not ultimate. But if God exists, then God is ultimate. So you've defined a God that can't possibly exist.
Well, according to the string theory,
are you a physicist?
Dimensions, a being.
Are you a physicist?
No, but you can look this up.
No. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I pay attention to physics communicators, right? And from my understanding, and I can't override what physicists say. From my understanding, what I'm telling you is that I listen to what physicists have to say about physics, and my understanding is that string theory is not a supported hypothesis. So we should not be basing any conclusions on string theory because we have no reason to think that string theory is true. Obviously, if sometime in the future we gained evidence that string theory is true, then we could start drawing conclusions from it. But currently, that would be irrational. So we can't draw conclusions from string theory. So again, here's where we're at. You're saying that your God exists inside time, but that would mean that the God couldn't exist. So again, you've defined a married bachelor. You've defined a square circle. Contradictions can't exist. Your God is contradictory. Therefore, your God doesn't exist. So you need to resolve that contradiction before we can proceed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if we can't use theories, then yeah, that's not.
I'm not saying we can't use theories. I'm saying that we can't use unsupported hypotheses. We can't draw conclusions from unsupported hypotheses.
Okay, yeah, that's cool then. All right.
Okay, so do you have any way to resolve the contradiction in your view?
No, you good.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have anything else?
No,
okay.
No, that was it.
Well, I appreciate the honest, good faith conversation. Those are my favorite kind. And if you want to have a conversation again some other time, feel free to request again.
Yeah, man.
Take care. Okay. We're just gonna go ahead and do one of these. Okay, so if you are in the guest queue, or hey Obelisk, good to see you. Now that I still don't know who you are. So if you are in the guest queue, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Yeah, Moon, the channel is growing and I'm honestly like shocked about it. Genuinely. Yeah. Okay. what I'm hoping to do with you, all you guys support, is to start doing things like getting some graphic design done and like make the stream better. Like that's one of my goals. But anyway, we'll bring up the next guest. Thanks, Michelle. Seriously, I appreciate it.
Hey,
hi,
what's
Nathan.
up, man?
Yeah, are you at least
Yeah, how
18?
you doing? Yes, sir. I'm
Cool.
Tony.
What God do you believe in?
So I don't believe in a God. I believe that everything started. God, he was born and he just exploded himself, and that's what the Big Bang was.
Okay, well, sounds like we don't disagree. We just would have a semantic disagreement, and I'm not here for semantic conversations, but I appreciate you, and I hope you have a good one.
Wait, can I stick my dick in your fucking asshole, you stupid big fat?
Sorry, as I said, I'm unfortunately in a monogamous relationship, so I'm not going to be able to have sex with all the people that apparently I didn't realize how many religious people find me so attractive. Like, oh, well, I didn't mean unfortunately. I didn't mean that obviously I'm happy to be in the relationship that I'm in. I more meant it as I can't take you up on your offer. As I'm trying to be nice, letting him down that I can't take him up on his offer. Oh. Trying to make me look bad. All right, so if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Let's see if Crazy J will come up. Hi, Crazy J, are you at least 18? Hello?
That's 1, 2, 3. Can you hear?
I can hear you
Testing.
now. I can hear you now. I'm going to count to 3 and I'll ask you to say 4 so we can check with a delay. 1, 2, 3.
4. Can you hear me? Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, there was like a 4-second delay.
Testing.
So I don't know if you can get a better connection
that.
and maybe come back another time. All right, we'll move on to the next person. I hope my girlfriend enjoys my personality. I mean, she seems to. Well, she says she does, and I trust her, so she does. Oh, you're good, Greenball. Just having trouble getting anybody in here. Thanks, AC Douchey. So apparently baptized in Jesus Christ isn't going to come up. Bueller? Okay. Well, so back to no requests currently. Oh, maybe we do have one. All right. Well, thank you, Michelle. My girlfriend also has an amazing personality. She's awesome. Actually, she's pretty badass. She's been through a lot and like, I don't know, she's strong in multiple ways and I respect the hell out of her for it. Okay, so if you're in the guest box or think that you are thinking about joining the guest box, please make sure that you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Schizo, are you at least 18?
Yes, I am 19 years old. And I have a question.
What God do you believe in?
I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay, and what's the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Do you believe in science?
I don't know what that means. Science isn't a proposition, so believing in science doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Look up the shroud of Jesus Christ.
Are you talking about the Rag of Turin? Yeah, that's a known forgery. So I don't really want to waste my time. Yeah, I mean, even the church, when it was brought about, like back in the whatever was the 1300s, even the church said that it was a forgery because they knew the guy that forged it, and people in modern times have recreated the exact same thing, also Like, if it was real, you would expect the features of the face of the person underneath it to have been, like, stretched and distorted because of the way the cloth would have laid on the face. Instead, it looks more like a portrait, like it was just drawn on by somebody who didn't actually know how it would work. Also, the Bible, the Gospels, describe the type of wrappings that were on Jesus, and it was like a whole bunch of, multiple cloths wrapped around like bandages. So even if there was some kind of cloth left over from Jesus's burial wrapping, it wouldn't be the Shroud of Turin. So for many, many, many reasons, that forgery is not reliable, and I'm not willing to talk about it. So if you have anything else, I'd love to hear it. If not, I can move on.
You're lost. That's all I gotta say. You're lost. You're blasphemy. It's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. And you will see within the end. In the end days,
Wow.
you will see.
Oh, I'm so scared.
In the end days, you will see who comes to judgment.
You know who's
You
going
will
to come
see.
and judge in the end days?
Jesus
It's going to
Christ
be my
of
friend
Nazareth.
Eunice, the
That's
universe
who.
farting unicorn.
Jesus
She's going to
Christ
come
of
back.
fucking Nazareth.
No,
That's who.
Eunice. It's going to
He's
be
gonna
Eunice.
come back,
Eunice is
and
going to
he's
come
gonna
back.
destroy all evil.
No,
He's
I
gonna
know
kill
that Universe is going to come back. Universe.
No,
Eunice, the universe
Lord
farting
Jesus
unicorn.
Christ is.
Eunice is
He
going to
is the
judge
living
you, and for
God,
being an
the
asshole
one
and coming up here and
almighty,
giving
the
bad
one and
arguments, she's
only
not going to be
true
very
Jesus
kind to you.
Christ.
Luckily,
No, you're blasphemy. You're blasphemy. You're spreading blasphemy against the Holy
oh
Spirit.
man,
And that is
oh
wrong,
boy,
brother.
Oh, I'm so scared. Are you afraid
You
of
should be
Krampus?
scared. You should be scared.
Are
of
you
the
afraid
Lord
of
Jesus
Krampus?
Christ.
Are you afraid of Krampus?
No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Are you afraid of Lord
I fear
Voldemort?
No man, besides the Lord Jesus Christ.
Are you afraid of
You're
Lord
spreading
Voldemort?
Blasphemy.
Are
No.
you? Uh-huh.
No.
So it sounds like you're not
I'm
afraid of
scared
fictional
no one but the
characters,
Lord
right?
Jesus Christ.
It sounds like you're not afraid of
Neither-
fictional characters, right?
You're fiction. Shit. You're fiction. You saying Jesus Christ is fiction as much as you saying you're fiction. The
Mhm.
Lord Jesus Christ lives. He
Oh,
lived
really?
and he
Wow.
became-
I mean, that
became
sure
the
is a
world
claim. Do you have any evidence?
There's all kinds of evidence.
Oh, wow.
And
I
the
didn't think
Shroud of
about how
Jesus
there's all
Christ
kinds of
is-
evidence, man.
And the Shroud of Jesus Christ is one of the evidence. And the Bible is the evidence.
Yeah, do
And
you
you're
have,
spreading
I mean, those are
blasphemy.
claims. Do you have any argument or evidence to back
They're
it
not
up?
claims, they're the truth. And
Oh,
you're spreading
okay, sure.
blasphemy.
Wow. I guess I should have realized that. Oh man. Well, I'm going to go continue to be,
Yeah,
stubborn in my ways, okay? What's the phrase? Something in unrighteousness? I was trying to remember the actual phrase. Something in unrighteousness. What is that phrase from the Bible? This is going to bug the shit out of me. What's the Bible passage? Something in unright. How do you oh. Oh. I'm suppressing the truth in my unrighteousness. That's what I'm doing. Okay. I couldn't remember and then Lem said it and I wasn't paying attention. Oh shit. Thanks, God is good. Thank you so much for the support. Okay. 1 second and I will get to the next person. Sorry, TikTok Studio gives me problems sometimes. Okay. All right. So once again, if you are in the guest box or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. So we'll move on to the next guest. Ayawad, are you at least 18?
Yes, sir.
Cool. And what God do you believe in?
What God do? Bro, Jesus, bro. You kidding me?
Okay. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Why don't you believe in God, man? Isn't life sad?
Well, I'm trying to, but I can't believe without in any kind of argument or evidence. So I'm asking you
Okay,
what
I
the
got
best
you.
argument or evidence is. You got anything for me?
I got you. Yeah, bro.
Okay. What's your favorite argument or evidence that? Also, is there something you
How
can
do
do
you-
about
why
the
do you
background
think-
noise? It's going to drive me crazy. Oh, Philo Dragon, thank
got
you.
Give me 1 second. All right, is it better?
It is a bit better, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not so much.
I'm watching the game right now. I'm watching the
Okay.
NBA.
All right. Well, I will let you watch the game, and maybe we can talk some
hold
other
on.
time.
Let me give you.
You can come back up when you got the background noise taken care of. Thanks. That was driving me nuts. All right. I'm sorry, Danny. I didn't give him the opportunity, but hopefully Awad will come back after he's turned down the game, and then he can turn us all into Christians. All right. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Yodoc. Are you at least 18?
I just wanted to waste your time.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. What do you want to waste time on?
No, I'm not 18.
All right. Blake, I only kick people when they can't engage in the conversation. If you come up here and you engage in the conversation, you don't get kicked. I don't know if you've noticed, but as I told, what was his name? Word and Sword earlier, I'm going to match the energy, right? So if you come up and you're respectful and polite and just actually engage in the conversation, then we can have a great conversation. Yeah, Michelle, that's what I'm always hoping for too, but maybe the next one. If you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Yep, you're next. Hi, Arkham. Are you at least 18?
Oh yeah, I'm 40, brother. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm also 40.
That's good, man. That's good.
What God do you believe in?
Well, I believe in Jesus or Yeshua, whatever you want to call him. You know.
Yeah, totally fine. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God?
Well, as long as everything is true, his enemies is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, but that's that's assuming everything is true that his enemies believe, but I don't believe that stuff is true, and that's what I'm asking you to demonstrate.
So you think the whole crucifixion and everything was just made up?
I don't know for sure if whether or not Jesus was a real person. I could probably just grant for the sake of conversation that Jesus was a real person and he was executed for blasphemy, and then people believed that he resurrected and started a religion around that belief. I can grant all of that, but that none of that gives me any reason whatsoever to believe that a God exists, because granting that is exactly the same as granting that Jim Jones was a real person and he got a bunch of people to move to, wherever it was, Central America or South America or whatever, and then they all killed themselves for him because he told them to. Obviously that's a thing that really happened. And some people might say oh, the only reason that he had so much control and power over those people is because he was really divine and had a connection to a God. Well, I don't agree. I think that it was just a cult like any other cult that believed in a bunch of wacky bullshit, and the people lost their lives because of it, and it was a horrible tragedy. So for the same reason that I don't think that Jim Jones being a real person means that God exists, I don't think that even if Jesus was a real person that would mean God exists.
Okay. All right, so the whole Jim Jones thing, obviously that was some type of a brainwashing, and I'm not saying that religion as a whole
and I'm not trying to make you responsible for Jim Jones. Please, don't think that I'm trying to say that
No. I'm just trying to throw some comparisons.
Okay,
I'm on page with you. I see where you're going with this.
Okay, and then I'm sorry for interrupting.
No. You're fine, man. You're fine. All right, so let's go to the Bible real quick. Okay, the Bible has over 63,000 references over a 1,500 year span, 66 in some books. They didn't even know each other.
Yeah, that's fine. There are way more stories about Batman and Spider-Man and Superman and Captain America than there are stories about Jesus, and there are way more cross-references in the stories about those comic book characters than there are cross-references in the Bible. And I would say that those cross-references exist for the exact same reason in both. They exist because the people writing a text have all of the previous texts to refer to, and they're writing their text based on all those previous texts. And then when that one's written, then the next person writes to the next one, and they're referring to all the texts that were already written. The only times that this doesn't happen when you can tell this isn't happening is in the Bible, where things like Paul disagreeing with the message of Jesus. Like Paul just blatantly contradicts so many things Jesus says, and that's because the Gospels didn't exist when Paul was writing, because Paul was writing about 40, 50 years after Jesus died, and the Gospels probably weren't written until another 10, 20 years after that. So that's, we can tell that when the things in the Bible do line up, it's because the timeline allows for the people writing the things that line up with previous things having access to those previous things. And then we see very, very big examples in the Bible of things not lining up when the authors didn't have access to the other texts that they contradict. And that's exactly the opposite of what we would expect. We would expect that even if they didn't have access, like, for example, we would expect that if Paul actually had a communication with God or had any divine authority in what he was writing, that he would not have contradicted the Gospels, even though he didn't have them to read. The problem is that he did contradict the Gospels, which means that that's really good evidence to suggest that the Bible was not divinely inspired, because that wouldn't happen if the Bible was divinely inspired.
I mean, okay. I feel you. Okay, I see where you're coming from on that. Okay, but we also, but the Bible also has, with like, man, you just fucking shot down every argument that I had ready.
I know, because I've heard all of these arguments before, and I don't mean to be insulting or anything, but they're really, really bad arguments.
Right. I mean, okay, so we don't know where all this came from. So, I see the whole point of like people being, oh God, or whatever. But, I mean, on a daily basis, and miracles and just crazy things that we can't explain happen all the time. And I really feel that there is something else out there, and whether if Jesus existed or if he didn't, I mean, all his message promoted was to love each other, respect each other.
That's not true.
Do for each other more than you do for yourself.
I'm sorry, that's not true.
I mean,
so there's two major problems with what you're saying. Number one, that was not Jesus's message. Jesus's message was make sure that you follow all the laws from the Old Testament, even the ones that tell you to execute disobedient children. And if you don't, then fuck you. That was Jesus's message, or at least part of his message. So it was not this loving, kumbaya, whatever. That's just not accurate to the Bible.
He says you have to follow the law.
And including the laws that say that you should execute women if they don't bleed on their wedding night, the laws that say that you should execute your children if they're unruly, the laws that say that you can own slaves, the laws that say, that it was okay to commit genocide. Like, all of those things are the things that Jesus is endorsing. So pretending that Jesus had a message of, love and harmony and peace is just to completely ignore the actual message of the Gospels.
That was the break of the covenant. I
No.
thought that was the break of the Old Testament.
No, that's what Paul says, and that's why I was explaining that Paul directly contradicts Jesus. Jesus specifically says over and over and over again that none of the old laws will go away until earth is gone, until we're all in heaven. That's the only time when the old laws will go away. And then Paul comes along and says, nope, just kidding. Jesus was wrong. All the old laws did go away. So if you trust Paul over Jesus, then you're saying that you don't actually think that Jesus is God and the true authority. And if you trust Jesus over Paul because you think God or Jesus is God and the true authority, then you would have to say that the old laws have not gone away and we should still be following them. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, oh shit, now do I even remember it?
I'm listening.
The other thing that I was going to say is that a lot of the arguments that you're giving here are what's called an argument from incredulity. I don't mean this to be insulting. I genuinely don't.
No,
do you
please,
know what,
bro, go.
Do you know what the word incredulity means?
No, I was just gonna ask
okay,
you. What do you mean?
I didn't want to ask that like I think that you're stupid, because that's not me thinking that you're stupid. It's just that's a word that not everybody uses. So that's the only reason I was asking, and why I was trying to say, please don't take this as an insult. But anyway, so incredulity just means like not knowing something, right? Not being aware of something. Like we call someone
Ignorance.
like credulous is a synonym for gullibility. So incredulous would be the opposite of like, I just can't believe this. I just can't believe it. Right. And so what you're saying is all of the answers that other people have provided, you're saying, well, I can't believe those answers. I just can't imagine that those things are real. Therefore, I'm just going to make up an answer and assume that the made up answer is real. And what I'm trying to say is that I don't think that that's a good way to go about finding the truth. And my personal priority is finding the truth.
Okay. Well, let's just say for a second that, all, God is real, Satan is real, Jesus, all that stuff was real. Let's just say for, whatever. And it says that, even Satan can masquerade as an angel of light and all this stuff. And he fell from heaven, supposedly, and earth is his kingdom because supposedly he offered it to Jesus or whatever. I'm just saying. So if this is his kingdom and he is the king of deception, wouldn't he want this for everybody? To be confused, to be deceived, to not know their ass from a hole in the ground, etc., etc.
Yeah, but again, this is
a
just
God.
this is just
I don't know
more.
if Jesus.
This is
Well,
just
go ahead, go
more.
ahead.
This is just more you assuming that something is true that you don't have evidence for, and then drawing conclusions based on that assumption. What I'm saying
Well,
is
I
that
know
we shouldn't.
morals- Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that we shouldn't be making assumptions. We should only believe things that we have rational justification to believe, and then we should only be drawing further conclusions from the things that are rationally justified. I don't think that there's rational justification to believe in God, and therefore, like basing other beliefs, drawing other conclusions based on a belief in God is unwarranted.
Okay, so then that means that there is no such thing as good and evil then in your
No.
line of thinking, right?
No, not
So
at
then
all.
where do you think morals stem from?
Agency.
The big ones.
Agency.
Do you think people, because not everyone's born with the same morals.
I agree.
I
That's
don't
why I
think
don't
so.
think. That's why I don't think that morals come from our intuitions, because people are born with different moral intuitions. People live in cultures with different moral beliefs and different moral prescriptions, and therefore, people, whether they're born with them or it's cultural, a lot of different people have lots of different moral intuitions. So I don't think that intuition is a source of moral authority. I'm saying that morals can be derived from agency.
So you think that they could be possibly subjective to the person?
No, nope. I think that morals are objective and they're grounded in agency.
I see where you're coming from. You run a good argument.
Well, I can give you the specific argument for where I think my morals come from.
I was listening to you and stuff, and everyone's all having these same debates and conversations. And I feel like that's what we need to do. We need to talk more instead of, I'm right and no, I'm right. Because if everyone's right, then nobody's wrong. You know what I mean? Type of deal. And I guess we're all out here to try to figure out, what the truth, like you said, what the truth is. I don't think it's something that we could even know. I just feel like the universe is so perfect. Even just our neck of the woods is just so perfect. I don't think it could be an accident.
My problem with that though is that, like, first off, created with intent and accident are not the only two options, right? Like, evolution gives us a good example of how you can get non-random results without a guided process, without any intelligence involved, right? Because you have natural mechanisms that apply selection pressure to an otherwise random system, and that creates non-random results.
Right.
And there
so,
is
so evolution.
Mhm.
Okay, because this is what I have trouble with, is evolution. Obviously, evolution is something that happens over thousands, if not millions of years. So the human will never be able to see something evolve.
No, that's not true. We've seen lots of things evolve.
I've never seen anything because
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, evolutionary biologists, people who research this, have documented speciation, I cannot talk. They have documented species evolving in lab experiments. Like, we have seen species, like new species, evolve from previous species. We have applied pressure and created or seen the result through evolutionary processes.
Adapting? Kind of like when
Yes,
a
that's
fish
the same thing,
goes
Arkham.
into a cave and loses
That's the
its
same
eye,
thing.
but its smell gets-
Yeah, it's evolution is adaptation. It's the same thing.
See, I don't.
Well,
see,
not
evolution
exactly,
to
but
me
kind
is
of.
When, right. Evolution to me is when, okay, perfect example. We came from monkeys. Then why the f are monkeys still here?
Well, that's like saying that America came from Europe. Why is Europe still here? That doesn't make any sense. Because some Europeans
Well, in
came.
evolution, there's no use.
Arkham.
Sorry,
Some Europeans came to America, created the America that we know today, and now there's both Europe and America. Similarly, there were a population, and I wouldn't say that we came from monkeys. We just have a common ancestor with monkeys. But I would say that there was a population of that common ancestor. Some of them went, lived one lifestyle, and another lived a different lifestyle in a different environment. And because they were living different lifestyles in different environments, their evolutionary paths diverged. One of those populations evolved into what now become, the monkeys and apes that we know, and another path evolved into us. We just have a common ancestor. But again, like that's again the if we evolved from monkeys, why are monkeys still here? Is the same thing as saying if dogs evolved from wolves, why are wolves still here? Well, obviously because not every single wolf was bred into a dog. So wolves kept breeding as wolves and are still wolves, and passed down their being a wolf. And then there was a population of wolves that we applied selection pressure to, and they turned into dogs. Now that's not exactly the same as other types of evolution, but I'm just saying that it's an example of how one portion of a population can separate and evolve in one direction while the rest of the population evolves in a different direction. That's not a problem with evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I see, like I said, bro, you run a good argument. You're obviously very educated, and I respect everything that you're saying. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, like that one dude, and say all kind of mean things to you, because that's not, listen, if God is real, that's not what he's going to want to promote, dude. Like, there might be an Old Testament God, a New Testament God. I don't know. It could all be a lie. I just know that there's something else after this that I am 100% sure of. This is not the last stage. When you die, you're not going to go into an abyss of nothingness. I really, because energy cannot be depleted. And that's what we are. We are electrical.
Well, what's the, no, so the problem here is that while I would agree that in closed systems energy can't be created or destroyed, that has nothing to do with your consciousness. Your consciousness isn't energy. Your consciousness is an emergent product of specifically the neural systems in your body. So as soon as you die and the electrical and chemical reactions in your brain stop, like the energy that was powering that will still exist. The energy that was involved in that will still exist, but your consciousness can't exist anymore because your consciousness can only exist as long as your brain activity continues. So there's no reason for us to think.
Can you explain why then sometimes when people have near-death experiences, when they're in the operating rooms and then they can tell the whole surgeon everything that happened in the room?
Yeah, because that's a lie.
They were dead.
Yeah, that's really easy to explain because that's a lie. That has never happened.
But I've had, me personally, not to that extent, but I've had one of those.
Yeah, I know.
I've had it.
But here's the thing, Arkham. Have you noticed that people in Christian cultures always have Christian near-death experiences, and people in Hindu cultures always have Hindu near-death experiences, and people in Muslim cultures always have Muslim near-death experiences, and people in Norse cultures always have Norse near-death experiences?
I mean, listen, that's what I'm saying. Maybe life is a placebo.
No, life is not a placebo. What's happening when you're about to die is that you're losing oxygen and functionality in your brain, and your pineal gland dumps a bunch of a hallucinogenic chemical, DMT, into your brain. So what's happening is that your brain is malfunctioning and hallucinating. And so what happens then is, do you know how we all have blind spots in our eyes because of the nerve bundle? It's over here on the side.
Yeah, we can only see 35% of light spectrum anyway.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying have you ever seen one of those optical illusions where it's if you focus on a dot and then you move it to a certain distance, there's certain things that'll disappear because they're in your blind spot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we don't notice the blind spot because your brain just pastes over it with whatever it expects to be there, right?
Right.
Okay. And so that's what our brains are our brains are evolved to do, is
fill in the gaps.
Fill in the gaps. Your brain doesn't like gaps. So when you have a near-death experience, or someone has a near-death experience, and they have any memory of it whatsoever, the brain is going to say, okay, there's some gap here that I can't explain. What should be in that gap? And then it's going to fill in whatever you already believe should be in that gap. If that's, seeing your, dead relatives, if that's seeing Jesus, if it's seeing Odin, if it's seeing Vishnu, whatever your expectation is, that's what your brain's going to fill in. And it becomes much easier for that to feel real because, again, your brain is malfunctioning and hallucinating. So that's why we see consistently that people have near-death experiences that involve the things that they already believe in or they're already, exposed to on a regular basis. The real problem with the whole near-death experience thing is that there is such a thing as the AWARE project, and there were multiple of these done. The AWARE project, and I think it was like AWARE and AWARE 2, these were studies that were done where they actually set things up in like emergency rooms, places where people are likely to have medical emergencies and have near-death experiences. They would do things like putting playing cards face up on top of a cabinet, or put an object up on top of the building, or any kind of, those types of things where people wouldn't be able to see them unless they were actually having this out-of-body near-death experience. And not a single time in all of those studies, out of thousands and thousands of cases, not a single time where any of the people who said that they had a near-death experience, none of the people who said they had near-death experiences were ever actually able to tell them what was being said when they were out. They were never able to say what card was on top of the cabinet. They were never able to say the object that was placed on the roof. They were never able to actually answer any of the questions that they would have been able to answer if the near-death experience that they purported to have had was real. What that means is that near-death experiences are just hallucinations, or your brain filling in a gap that it doesn't.
They sure do feel real.
I agree.
Like
I agree. Have you ever
I've had one. Yeah,
I don't want to
listen,
talk. I don't want to talk about illegal substances or anything, but as someone
no.
Well, I was just going to say that as someone who has experienced, like chemically induced hallucinations before, I can tell you they feel real. That doesn't mean that they're real.
Well, in 2010, I was stabbed 9 times, and I died for 47 seconds.
I'm very sorry to hear that you went through that.
It's all right, man. I needed to. It changed my life forever, trust me. But I didn't see operating room, but I had a near-death experience that I still can't explain to this day.
Right, but I want to point, I'm so sorry, but I want to really point that out, what you just said, that you can't explain it. So what you're doing the same thing earlier, or maybe this isn't an argument from incredulity, this is more an argument for ignorance. What you're saying is, I don't know the explanation for this thing, therefore I get to make up an explanation. That's not how explanations work.
Well, here's the thing: is like I didn't stumble into. Okay, I didn't come from a godly home, is what I'm trying to say.
That doesn't matter. You were raised in a Christian culture, so of course, what you're going to see in those moments are Christian imagery.
I mean, even if you have no faith in anything like that.
Yes, because that's what your brain was expecting. You may not have been like devoutly religious, but obviously you did have some credence for those claims in your mind. And so when you had a situation where your brain thought those things were relevant, it filled it in with those things. So again, we have lots and lots of evidence that near-death experiences should not be trusted, and we have no evidence that they should be trusted. So that tells us that the only reasonable conclusion is that we shouldn't trust near-death experiences.
Okay, so we need to go off something a little bit more tangible, which honestly, in that field, there isn't any. It's all faith-based.
Well, I will agree that religious belief tends to be faith-based. I'm not saying that we need anything tangible. I'm just saying that we need something conclusive, something compelling, and trying to point to something that we have proven and demonstrated over and over and over again not to be reliable. I don't think that we should rely on that as a source of justification for other beliefs. You know what I mean? Like if I told you, like let's say that you were having like really bad kidney stones, and you needed to go to the emergency room to get it taken care of, and we were at my cabin in the woods, and you're like, man, how do I get to a hospital? And I say, well, the car's not working, so the only way that you can go is through this path in the woods. Now there's one path that you can take that will get you to the hospital with 100% certainty, but it'll take like 20 minutes. And there's another path that you can take that if it gets you to the hospital, it'll only take 15 minutes, but there's an 80% chance that it'll take you somewhere other than the hospital. I think that any rational person is going to take the path that's 100% likely. Even though it involves more discomfort and it involves more problems, you're going to take the path that actually gets you to where you want to go, and not the path that doesn't necessarily get you where you want to go. And like 20% of the time it gets you to a real hospital, and the other 20% of the time, or the other 80% of the time, it gets you to fake hospitals that tell you they're going to fix you, but they only make you worse. right? And so that's what is happening with faith is you're saying, well, I think some people use faith to come to true beliefs, but I guarantee that you can also think of examples of people like people of other religions who use faith to come to false beliefs. So what that means is that instead of taking the little bit more difficult but reliable path that I've taken, you're taking the shorter but unreliable path because it's easier and because it fits with what you already want to be true. I think that that's a bad, immoral, and dishonest way to go about
Well, it's not
forming
that I want
beliefs.
it to be true. Like,
That's what
it's
faith
not
is.
that I mean, I get it. I get you. I know what you're saying. But it's like, it's not that, like, I don't know, man. It's just like, some people, it's easier, and some people, they're like you know what I mean? You're more rational. You know, you're more, less faith-based and more, I got to see this, and this, and this. And I mean, I completely understand, but there's just so much stuff that you're just discrediting, and
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
but am I discrediting it unreasonably, or am I discredditing it because I
No,
actually have reasons?
You're reasonable. Hey, man, like I said, you're respectful. I think you're being reasonable, and I'm learning stuff. And like I said, you got me tongue-tied, and I'm not trying to discount. Like, okay, so I feel like religion as a whole, Catholics, let's start there. That whole organization, it's like religion and power have to be associated. And it's like, I feel like that's not what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to do it because, like, you love people. And that's what I thought that this whole thing was supposed to be about, you know, like love for each other, doing things for one another, actually caring about your fellow man, you know what I mean? And not being hateful or saying, oh my God, or, like God hates gays, or I hate when people say stuff like that, because like the God that I would think ruled everything, like how you said in the Old Testament, he was all kill your wife or whatever, do all this crazy stuff. I don't see.
Well, if you don't believe in a God like that, then you don't believe in the Christian God. Because if Christianity is true, then the God that exists wants fathers to sell their daughters into slavery, wants people to buy foreigners as slaves, wants newlywed women, or actually probably young girls who don't bleed on their wedding night, to be executed. He wants parents with unruly children to execute their children. He wants you to commit genocide sometimes. He thinks it's okay to use rape as a punishment. Like, that's the God that exists if Christianity is true. If you believe in a God that doesn't agree with those things, then I'm sorry, but you don't believe in Christianity.
I think I need to do a little bit more research.
I recommend that you actually read the Bible. There is a
I mean, I do. I just.
Well, I highly recommend that you
that
look up.
extent.
There's a creator on here and on YouTube, and I think he streams on like Facebook and Twitch and a bunch of places. He goes by Deconstruction Zone. His name is Justin. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but he went to Bible college and seminary. He has degrees in biblical studies. He learned, biblical Hebrew and Greek so that he can read the original texts in their original languages that they were written in. Right. He can read the translations in the languages they were written in. This is the kind of guy where if you just give an idea of something that was in a Bible passage, he could probably tell you the exact chapter and verse where you can find it. And he could probably flip to it immediately in a Bible. He could tell you the differences between all the different translations, which ones are good, which ones are bad, and for what reasons. Like, that's the kind of person that I think that you and other Christians like you who actually want to believe true things but haven't been exposed to this information, that's the kind of person I think that you should be listening to. And I guarantee you that if you have the opportunity to get up into one of his lives and talk to him, he's going to do a much better job than I can of explaining to you what the problems are with Christianity, with the Bible, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, Deconstruction Zone his name is, right?
Yes, correct. Or like he has a channel on YouTube, DZ Debates, but it's the same thing.
Well, I will let you have the next person, and thank you very much for your time, and have a good day, brother.
Well, sincerely, Arkham, I know sometimes when I say this to people, it comes across as condescending, and I just want to be clear, that's not what I'm intending to do. So,
no, man, I appreciate you.
So, well, I just want to say something, and I don't want it to seem like I'm, being sarcastic. Genuinely, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for being polite, for actually engaging in the things that I was saying, and for actually, actually answering questions, actually giving your points and doing your best to communicate what you're trying to say, doing your best to understand what I'm trying to say. These are the kinds of conversations that I want to be having. Are we going to leave this conversation both agreeing and believing the exact same things? Absolutely not.
No.
But I think that hopefully we both come away with this
I'll be
thinking that
back.
we've had a positive
I'll
conversation.
be back again.
Fantastic.
Yes, sir. I'm going to follow you too.
Thank you.
Have a good day, brother.
All right. You take care of yourself.
Later, bro.
Later. W's in the chat for Arkham. Those are the conversations I want to have. Sorry, Lobes. I brought you up and then I probably didn't give you any opportunity to even talk.
No worries. I was actually kind of busy. I was like, man, why did I request up? I'm doing something right now. But I'm done with that. I actually just finished, so perfect timing.
I just saw... Oh, damn it. Thanks, Michelle. And Poopman Jones, Anna, Danny, Lupine. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really think that it's important to, point out that you can be a good guest. You can have these can be good conversations without it necessarily being like a fucking blood sport debate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like people think that my goal here is to just crush theists or whatever, but I don't want to do that. I will do it if I have to, but I don't. That's not my goal.
You just got to come up with honesty.
Yeah. A little bit of honesty, maybe a touch of humility, and I'll give them both of those right back. I do need to say, it's hard to keep up with it because you guys are doing so crazy. Thank you so much for all of the support. Lupine, Anna, Nick, was Angry Neeson. That's a great name. Steven, Speed Buggy, Error 404, Alan, more Lupine, Philo Dragon being a fucking boss. God is good. Poopman Jones. Godless Heathen. I just thank you so much to everybody for the support. I genuinely feel like I don't know how to say thank you enough. So I just try to call out as much as I can. But anyway, I'll move on to the next person. If you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Thank you so much, Era404, for the sick hat and mustache. All right, we'll move on to Lath. Or maybe not. No? I guess not. Okay, I'll bring up the next person in just a second here. What I want to do is this, and I want to do... Hi, nobody. Are you at least 18?
35.
Okay. What God do you believe in?
The Judeo-Christian God.
Okay, so you're not a Christian?
Judeo-Christian? I don't know where you don't hear the word Christian.
Mm-hmm. But you said Judeo-Christian, so obviously you wouldn't actually be a Christian if you don't just believe in the Christian God. If you believe that the Jewish conception of Yahweh is also accurate or has accuracy to it, then you wouldn't be a Christian. So I'm just trying to be clear about which God you actually believe in.
You do understand that Yahweh had a son by the name of Jesus, so therefore it'd be
that's the Christian God, not the Jewish God, right?
It's the same. It's the same thing.
No, it's not. I mean, it's clearly not.
How is it clearly not?
Because the Jewish God doesn't have a son that came to earth, and the Christian God does, right? The Jewish God never incarnated as a person. The Jewish God is not triune. So, I mean, there's lots and lots of differences. So if you believe in the Christian God, fine. That's not a problem.
So where is your evidence to make that rationalization between the Old Testament and the New Testament in your own justification? Because the way that I read it, Yahweh did have a son by the name of Jesus. You could read many examples, like, for example, Proverbs 30, verse 4 is that example.
Yeah, if you believe the New Testament, then you believe the New Testament. If you don't believe the New Testament, then you don't believe any of the stuff about God sending a son down or any of those things, right? So there's no reason.
So Emmanuel, God with us, or the series of the symbology of the tabernacle. So how do you make that distinction that Yahweh didn't have a son? Where's that even in remotely at in Scripture?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You said that the God of the Old Testament didn't have a son. And
Yeah, name me one spot in the Old Testament where God has a son.
I clearly did. Did you not hear what I said? Proverbs 30, verse 4?
Let me look it up. Proverbs 34. And let's see. 1 second. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the wind in the hollow of the hand? Who has wrapped up the waters in a garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is that? What is the person's name? And what is the name of the person's child? Surely you know. What does this have to do with anything?
Okay, so, yeah, if you read from... okay, so which version are you reading from? So we're clear.
The New Revised Standard Version, Updated Edition.
Okay, so go to, per se, like the New King James, it will say God.
No. No, I'm not going to read a bad translation. I read this
How's that a
translation
bad
because this is
translation?
an
Not bad.
academic translation, not
No,
a
it's actually- it's
biased.
not. No one accepts that translation in academia.
Source?
No one, do you mean everyone?
Yeah, what's the
Literally,
source?
No, okay, show
Source.
me source. Yeah, the New King. Okay, for example, if
No,
you go
give
to-
me the source for your claim that nobody in academia uses the NRSVUE.
I'm literally answering your question. So if you go to any Wesleyan, for example,
No. Tell me specifically the source that is going to say no one in academia relies or uses the NRSVUE.
well, I can say the same thing. I can
No, give me the source for your claim or retract the claim.
Well, so you're making the claim.
Give me the
not-
source for the claim or retract the claim.
You are making the claim. I'm
This is the
rebutting
last time I'm
against that.
saying it. Give me the source or retract the claim.
Well, I literally was doing.
All right,
that,
fair
but
enough.
you
I'll take that as a
rebut.
concession. If you're going to make claims like that and you can't support them, then you need to retract them.
The NRSVUE is what you would be using in seminary.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because obviously it is used in academia, and the claim that it's not, yeah, anyway, I will say, like, it's very common in the Old Testament for Jews to call themselves the sons of God. That's why Yahweh is called the Father, because they think of themselves as all children of Yahweh. So, like, it doesn't surprise me that there are passages talking about people being children of Yahweh. That doesn't mean that Yahweh had an actual son like Christians believe. Also, if we were able to get into it, if nobody wasn't such a dishonest interlocutor, we could have gotten to the fact that Jesus can't be the fulfillment of the Old Testament because he didn't fulfill a single prophecy. But obviously we were never able to get into that. Bible couldn't support... Oh, no, what I should say is ran away from supporting his claims. Cool. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Rare. Didn't we speak recently?
I'm the clique commander.
Okay, cool. Is that all you got? All right. Well, I mean, I like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back too, but it's not really relevant to the conversation here. Good times. What's that? All right. Oh, I hate these downtimes because I don't know how to be entertaining, right? Like there's nothing, I don't know what to do.
I was gonna try to start speaking to you to fill the space, but I was sucking down a milkshake, and I was like, well, damn. Like, I kind of was expecting that to last longer than 8 seconds.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, so my bad for enjoying a milkshake. Oh, but you guys.
Yeah, how fucking dare you?
Dude, when I watched the beginning of your stream, and I think your goal was something like 2,000 or 3,000. And holy shit, man! Like the community is really kicking ass with this.
You're making people in chat want milkshakes now.
Look, Yeah, well, it's a free country. You can go and get a milkshake.
No, they can't go get milkshakes. I guess maybe if you bring your phone with you and you keep watching. I am always more important than what you want.
Well, there's this. You can have it delivered to your home,
Oh.
and it doesn't cost all that much.
Don't do
extra.
that.
Like if your time is more valuable than your money. So
I don't
know,
man. I'm not going to spend $30 on a $4 milkshake, or maybe an $8 milkshake.
Fair enough.
Exactly, Phoenix. I'm glad that you understand. I'm more important than your basic human needs, obviously. Uh-oh. Lobes, we're about to get crushed.
Oh shit! Is it Russell? Oh, it's Phoenix.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Phoenix. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm actually doing pretty well. The conversation that I had with, I think it was Word and Sword earlier. Is that the one that was like really awesome? That was a great combo.
Oh, nice, awesome.
What have you got for me today?
I was actually just kind of coming up to fill in the dead space a little bit, but I could whip up something if if you need me to.
Well, I mean, is there anything that you've been thinking about lately?
Well, I kind of got a new job, so I've just kind of been busy with that.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think that like when I think about like my reasons for believing in God, I don't think they're like the most academically rigorous, but I still think that they're like reasonable. You know, it's not. I think there's enough like mystery in the world and things that we don't know in order to be like, yeah, this makes sense. This is a way of explaining the world that makes sense. You know.
I feel like that's just an argument from ignorance. It's just saying like, since there are questions that we don't know the answers to, I can just make up answers until we have more solid answers. But I think that making up answers instead of just staying uncertain until we have the evidence is probably going to make it less likely that you will be able to see the evidence when it's presented to you, right? Because if you already believe some made up thing as an answer to a mystery, then when that mystery is answered, if the answer contradicts the answer that you've chosen, you're probably not really going to be able to accept the true answer. So I think that you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think I'm like just making up an answer or believing in a made up answer. I think people have thought about this stuff, and like I don't see any part of my worldview that clashes with like reality, I guess, that I can.
Well, yeah, you believe in a God. That clashes with reality because in reality there are no gods.
Well, I mean, I think that like when it comes down to it, the like what best explains the resurrection, the if it's a myth, you know?
Yeah, well, I would say what best explains it would be either there was maybe one or two people who had grief hallucinations, and then if you combine that with the rest of the followers' desire to not think that they were completely wrong, that Jesus was the Messiah, I think it's pretty reasonable to think, especially when you consider the fact that it was a culture where things coming, visions and dreams were considered to be reliable sources of true information. If someone had a vision in a dream that Jesus visited them, they probably would believe that that was real and that actually meant that Jesus was resurrected, and then they would tell all the other followers who are mourning Jesus's death, hey, Jesus appeared to me and said that he resurrected and he's really still the Messiah. Well, then everybody already wants to believe in that, and so they just buy it, right? Like, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to think. And we know from studies that anywhere from like 40 to 60% of people will experience grief hallucinations in their lives. And so if grief hallucinations are that common, and back then people would have said that visions like that were reliable sources of truth, then I think it's totally reasonable to think that one or two people had that type of hallucination, and then they convinced everybody else that Jesus had returned, and then the stories just got more and more fantastic over time, because you need to make the stories as good as possible to get people to believe in them.
Yeah, I've thought about that. Like, I feel like that's kind of a good like hypothesis, but I also am a bit more skeptical now that like everybody would have like bought into this. And then the question of like why, I guess like when it comes to these sorts of things, like a lot of people have grief hallucinations, or they have ADCs, after death communications. And so like I think that when it comes to that, it just seems weird that people in the ancient world, even with their worldview, wouldn't recognize this as, oh, okay, this was either just a dream or it was a vision.
No,
But
in
then
that culture, they believed that dreams and visions were reliable sources of truth. So they
right,
had
but the
they lived
claim
in a
is different.
they lived in a culture where they were taught that you should trust information from those types of sources.
Yeah, but like to trust them to tell you what? To tell you that your loved one has rose from the dead
Yes.
physically? Because okay, so then shouldn't we see a lot more people claiming to be risen from the dead
There
physically
are
at that
tons of
time?
them. Yes, that's why there are so many
Okay.
of them. That's why somebody who was pretending to be resurrected Nero was able to put an entire army together and almost started a war because
Yeah,
people
that is.
believed in
I just thought
resurrections.
about
That's why
that.
there's
Yeah,
like if you
the
read Herodotus's histories, you can read the story of Aristeus, who died in a fuller shop and then resurrected, and then apparently flew around with Apollo as a raven. So like, yeah, I mean, there are tons and tons of stories from back then of people resurrecting. Was a very, very common thing. And the only reason why we don't hear about more of those people is because the only one that is really popular that people talk about is Jesus. But that doesn't mean that they didn't exist, because you're exactly right. If what I'm saying is true, we should expect to see lots of resurrection stories. The thing is, we do see lots of resurrection stories. So I would say that that is evidence that my claim is accurate and reliable. And again, here's I think one of the biggest questions that we should focus on here. Is it a normal thing for people to be honestly mistaken about something?
Yeah.
Is it a normal thing for people to lie sometimes?
Yeah.
So if it's a normal thing for people to be honestly mistaken, and it's a normal thing for people to lie, but it's a completely abnormal, unlikely, like insanely unlikely thing for people to rise from the dead after being dead for multiple days, don't you think that any explanation that involves one of the likely things is going to be preferable over an explanation that relies on something that's insanely, like by definition, unlikely?
I wouldn't go that far, because I think that and I hope that it comes across that I'm being honest and I think about this from other perspectives. I do think that it depends on the circumstances of every situation, because I think that there are some things that happen in life that just we don't have enough of the puzzle pieces to put together to make it make sense, you know?
No, I think that if we're saying that we don't know for sure why this happened, and we have really, really, an explanation that relies on something that happens all the time, another possible explanation that relies on things that happen all the time, and then a third possible explanation that relies on things that apparently almost never happen, if ever, well, then I think that we should think that the explanations that rely on likely things are more likely to be true than the one that relies on an unlikely thing. Like the more unlikely the resurrection is, and by definition it must be about as unlikely as a thing can be, then that means that we should favor other potential explanations. And if we don't have a defeater for the other potential explanations, because there are no defeaters for the idea that people just lied and made up the Jesus story, there's no defeater for the idea that it was just based on one or two grief hallucinations. So since there's no defeater for those hypotheses, then we absolutely should not favor the resurrection hypothesis over those much more likely hypotheses. Like if we try to divide up the probability space of potential answers for why, the stories of the resurrection, then I think it's going to be pretty obvious that all the explanations that rely on natural phenomena, natural occurrences, are always going to be more likely than the ones that rely on miracles. So until we have conclusive demonstration that there was a miracle, we should always favor the more likely explanations. Otherwise, you're just admitting to being irrational.
I do think that like it would be obviously the best case scenario would be for someone to experience a miracle in order to understand like, oh, this is happening. But at the same time, like if we experience something that is very unlikely to happen, like a miracle, it's understandable for someone to not believe it, to believe that they're hallucinating or dreaming or something like that. But it could be possible that in that case, a miracle does happen and they're just mistaken. You know?
Sure, but we shouldn't believe that until it's been demonstrated. And in order to demonstrate a miracle, you would have to have a better evidence for the miracle than we have for all the laws of physics that miracle had to break in order to happen.
Well, I mean, it depends on your view of miracle. I don't think miracles have to break the laws of physics.
If it's an occurrence that doesn't break the laws of physics and is just like a natural phenomena, then there's no reason why we should think anything supernatural was involved. So there would, in order for it to be a miracle, by definition, what a miracle is a suspension of the laws of nature by a divine agent. And so if no laws of nature were suspended, there wasn't a miracle. If there was a miracle, then laws of nature were suspended. And in order to believe that the explanation for a certain phenomena was a suspension of laws of nature, there has to be better evidence that the laws of nature were suspended than the amount of evidence there is that the laws of nature are uniform.
Gotcha. So I guess we have different definitions for like miracle. I just think miracles are God intervening in a way that makes the laws of nature behave differently than we normally expect.
That's a suspension of the laws of nature. That's what you're describing exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I also do think God can work through natural means as well.
That's fine, but that wouldn't be a miracle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I guess like, do you think that like the laws of nature can act in a way we don't expect without the things breaking, and it's more so, we just don't understand this yet?
Yeah, and that would be a reason why I think that we should assume, or that we should not assume that there's anything supernatural involved, because it's much more likely that we just have an incomplete understanding of the laws of nature than that a God exists and is interfering with those laws.
Okay. And then like, let's say that happens, but somebody either predicts or like seems to be affected. They said, hey, I'm going to make this water turn into wine. And then they like do it in front of you. Would that be sufficient evidence to say, okay, there's an agent involved? Okay.
No, because I'm a magician and here, let's try something. I haven't done this before, and we're going to see how it goes.
I love that we're integrating magic into this. Let's go.
Name any card in the deck.
The 4 of clubs.
Okay. So we're going to say the 4 of clubs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give me 1 second here. So I'm going to find just a random card in the deck here. Okay, it's the 6 of clubs. Okay. I'm going to use the 6 of clubs, and I'm going to find the 4 of clubs. Okay, so
okay,
I'll take it. This is the 6 of clubs. Well, you can see it. I'm going to run my thumb down the side, and I'm going to stick in the 6 of clubs, right?
All right.
This is really hard to get it in a way that you can see what's happening. So we're putting it in. Okay, now the reason that I put it in face up like that is, oh shit, you can't see. So I'm going to spread through the deck here, right? And I put it in face up so that as we're going through, eventually, oh, there it is. So eventually we're going to come to the 1 face up card in the deck, which is the 6 of clubs that I put in there, right? And, oh shit, I just closed it back up. Let me find it one more time. Where'd it go? Okay. So we found the 6 of clubs right here. Now I put it underneath the Ace of Hearts, but the card right underneath the 6 of clubs.
Hey, nice.
Now.
Nice.
Now.
God, thanks a lot. Now, what am I supposed to do after your, what am I?
Now.
God is real.
What? Here's the thing. Does that mean that I'm supernatural, that I have supernatural abilities? Or does that mean that something just happened that, you're not aware of?
Right. It means something happened that I'm not aware of.
100%. And I know magicians who can do the turning water into wine, right?
Right.
I know magicians who can do that, In fact, like you can literally buy that as a magic trick with like $20
Yeah.
probably. And there's no reason for us to think that there wasn't also, knowledge of how to do that magic trick, thousands of years ago. In fact, we know that that is an old magic trick that has been around for thousands of years. So it's not a surprise that people were doing that magic trick back then. Like in the Bible, it says that Jesus went to Egypt. And one of the hypotheses is that the reason the Bible says Jesus went to Egypt is because the real person the character is based on went to Egypt to learn from magicians and, quote unquote sorcerers there. He learned how to do magic tricks, came back to Israel and did magic tricks to build a following. Right? Like if I went out and I claimed to be a Christian and then I did my magic tricks for people and claimed that it was, a miracles from God, like that was obviously like not the greatest trick, right? Like I did something, whatever, it worked, but that's not the greatest trick. I love card magic. It's something I really am passionate about. My favorite tricks are the ones that happen in your hands, right? So like if we were here right now, person to person, I could do a much, much better magic trick than that, and it would happen while the deck is in your hands. I know how to do that stuff, so that you're holding the deck and magical shit happens. That's impossible. The only reason that it works is because I know something that's happening that you don't know about. And so the same thing can apply to any, and obviously thousands of years ago when people had even less access to information and less understanding about, how things work in reality and how to be skeptical about stuff like this, it's going to be easier to convince people that if you're doing something like turning water to wine or a stick into a snake, like that's going to be much easier to convince people that you actually have magical powers than it would be today.
Okay, I hear your points. I really appreciate that magic trick, and I think it's cool that you do those. That's a awesome.
I wish I could do a good one. Like it's so hard to like do this. Like okay, I'm gonna hold the deck right here and try to like whatever. Like I don't know. It's really hard to do it here.
Hopefully, God willing, we can meet one day and we can.
All right. If we ever do, I'll show you my favorite magic trick. I love it because it blows minds every single time.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask what state you're in, or is that too?
I'm from the Midwest.
Okay, I'm also from the Midwest, Ohio. So
it's a magic trick. He knew you were from the Midwest, and that's why he said that.
Oh, Poopman Jones just made me a wizard for a second there. I was that. What's the Merlin? I was Merlin from Sword in the Stone. But yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I feel like I don't know how much, further we can get. I think that we do just very much have different ways that we look at these things. And if I could, I would beam into your mind the way that I think about this stuff, but I don't think magic is actually real.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, like I will kind of put some cards on the table because I realized throughout life, and honestly, I'm coming, I feel like more to the conclusion that human beings kind of, we do stuff and then we rationalize it after the fact. But I think everybody does this. And I think it's just kind of like we evolved to do this. So like my question is like to put my cards on the table a little bit, I am very attached to the idea of a God because it grounds morality. So morality isn't just this thing that humans invent. It's something that can be discovered, and that is in and of itself like that is it's objective,
Well,
if it's
two responses. Number one, if God grounds morals, they're subjective, not objective, because God, having a mind, God is a subject. So if he decides what's moral and what's immoral, then morals are subjective. So you cannot have objective morals if they come from God. So those are completely incompatible. And then the second response is you absolutely can have objective morals without believing in God. There have been thousands of years of philosophical work done on that project, and most philosophers, in fact, believe that morals are objective and that they don't come from a God. I'm aware, I think it's Richard Swinburne who believes that God is contingent, like could have failed to exist, but morals are objective and necessary. So like there are even Christians who think that morals are objective and don't come from God, and God is contingent and things like that. Because in philosophy, it's a pretty popular position that objectives are that morals are objective and have nothing to do with God.
Gotcha, yeah. And I guess when it comes to like that, like there's the response of like, well, God is morality. It's like, I don't know if you've
Yeah, but then morality is arbitrary.
Well, if
So
it's
why is it
necessary,
the case?
arbitrary?
Well, so if morality just like comes from God's nature, why is it the case that God's nature is consistent with charity being a good thing and instead of charity being a bad thing? Because it seems arbitrary if that's the case.
Because evil is a privation.
No, that doesn't answer the question. Why is it the case that giving to charity is good and murder is a privation?
I would say that everything that is or exists is good. So
That's not an answer to my question.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how
Murder exists in the same way that charity exists. So if you're saying everything that exists is good and charity is good, then also murder is good. I don't think that that's what you actually want to say. I think what you are saying is that you see certain things that you think are good and say that those things are consistent with God's nature, but I think that that's just post hoc. I think you're adding that after the fact. You're saying, I already think this list of things is good, and therefore I'm going to say that that's all grounded in God because that makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. What I'm saying is that it's grounded in God because God just decided arbitrarily what was going to be good, in which case it's subjective and arbitrary, or it's grounded in God's nature because that's just like how God is, in which case maybe you could call it objective, but it's definitely still arbitrary because, again, there's no reason, there's no justification why some things are consistent with God's nature and other things aren't. So I think all that you and anyone else who's saying that morals are grounded in God, I think all you're doing is saying these things which I intuitively think are good are consistent with God, and these things that I can intuitively consider bad are inconsistent with God, and you have no actual justification to support the position that those things are consistent or inconsistent with God. Because that's why, like, for example, if the Christian God existed, we know exactly what things would be moral and immoral because it's in the book. The problem is the book tells us a lot of things that are moral that you and I don't think are moral, and the book tells us a lot of things are immoral that you and I don't think are immoral. So that tells me that your morals actually aren't grounded in Christianity. They're also not grounded in any like source external to yourself. They're grounded in your own intuitions, and then you project those intuitions onto God.
Okay. I'm curious because I think a lot
I can't hear you. You got really quiet.
Oh, sorry. Hello. I think we're having connection.
You're super quiet. I don't know if you're covering your microphone or something.
I think we're having delay.
Sounds like we're in your pocket.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in your pocket.
I'm trying to get a better signal. Hello.
I don't think it's the signal. I think it's just something with your microphone.
Hello.
Oh, it got a little bit better.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me better now?
It is better.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I didn't change anything. Yeah, I guess it's interesting because we can go into like the different doctrines of the different groups of Christianity and how they came to be, but that's like a whole other like side thing. I guess like when it comes to being itself, like I guess why is the universe one way when it could be another? Is it kind of arbitrary, or is it?
Well, I mean, I think that all you're doing by appealing to God to answer. Sorry, that was dodging. I apologize. I don't know is the honest answer to that question, and the reason that I don't think that that's a problem, or at least like I don't think that I have a bigger problem with that than you do, is that while you could say, well, I know why the universe is the way that it is and isn't different, and that is because of God, well, all you've done is create a bigger mystery because now I guarantee you're not going to be able to tell me the explanation for why God is the way that he is and isn't different or doesn't, why God exists instead of not existing and why God is the way that he is instead of being different. You can't answer those questions, so you've tried to solve a mystery by appealing to a bigger mystery.
Okay, yeah. I can kind of see that. I guess like for me, for like the morality thing that's got me kind of attached to these ideas are it's like, okay, well, if like morals are objective, how do we as beings who experience the world subjectively how do we know that we're discovering morals and not just coming up with what's convenient for us and then making a rationalization post hoc?
I think that's a fantastic question. I think that's exactly the kind of question that we should be asking. So kudos for that. I think that the way that we do it is to try to find what is rationally supported. And so my definition of objective is, true independent of any stance. And then subjective would be true dependent on a stance. That's why I'm saying that if morals are based in God, they're subjective, because it's only like moral facts are only true or false depending on God's stance on those things. Like, for example, there are times in the Bible where murder is bad because God is against that murder, and then there are other times in the Bible where murder is good because God is in favor of that murder. So obviously it is subjective and arbitrary if morals come from God in that way. But the way that we can find objective morals is to try to look for, because what we have to examine the concepts. So what does morality mean? Well, I think morality is simply the list of things that you have reason to do and not to do in relation to, your behavior and how you interact with other people, or, with your society and other agents. So if we define moral that way, saying it's just, the things that you ought do and ought not do in relation to your behavior regarding other agents, then we can say, okay, are there any stance independent reasons that we have to do certain actions, or to engage in certain behaviors and refrain from engaging in other behaviors in relation to our, interactions with other agents? And I would contend that yes, there are stance independent facts, truths about what behaviors we should and shouldn't engage in. Now, I mean, obviously we could go into where I ground my morals, which I was, applying logic to the concept of agency. But there's lots of other ways to ground morals. I'm actually about to, in a little bit here, start reading a book on virtue ethics finally. And I think that that's from what I'm told, I don't know yet because I haven't read it yet, but from what I'm told from other people that I talk to about this stuff, virtue ethics is a similar system to the one that I'm currently using, but better. And so if I can find a better system that has a more reliable pathway to stance independent moral facts, then I definitely want that. But as far as I can see right now, we can just ground more morality or those what you ought and ought not do, in regards to your, interactions with other agents. I think that we can just ground that in our understanding of agency. And I don't think we need to point to, oh, Lobes left. Oh, okay. Well, have a good one, Lobes. I don't think that we need to point to, a God or any other agent. We can just point to the objective facts in reality. And then obviously sometimes people are going to make the wrong calculation, or, you know what I mean? Because especially if you think about virtue ethics, the way virtue ethics works is it says you should, that we have reasons to try to embody certain virtues. And when you're in a morally difficult situation where you don't know what to do, you just need to weigh the virtues and say what do I have most reason to do and what do I have most reason not to do? And you may make the wrong decision sometimes. And it's just like anything else in life. You keep trying and you hopefully learn over time and get better as you keep trying.
Yeah, I would say that sounds like a pretty solid system. I think that basically when it comes to that sort of stuff, the issue that I personally face is like you talked about systems being better, right? How do we know which systems are better? We can go based on logic and what works for society, but if somebody else values something better than, or something different than society, or if somebody else is saying oh well, I just care about, or I think that this is a better system for society, it's we can appeal to logic to figure out what's best for society. But how do we know that society is the greatest good? I think.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying society is the greatest good. I'm saying that under virtue ethics, virtues would be the greatest good, or under the kind of semi-Geworthian moral system that I currently hold to, we would say that all agents, by virtue of being an agent, have moral rights, and then essentially the motivating thing that gives us reasons to act in certain ways and not act in other ways is just how our actions impact the moral rights of other agents.
Okay, yeah, I guess yeah, like again, for me, it's like, okay, if people disagree about, because it seems like it's like our moral systems are going to be based on what we value um, most.
Right, but I'm saying an objective moral system would be based on what is objectively valuable, not what
Right.
people value.
Yeah, so it's like, how do we know what's objectively the most
Logic.
valuable thing? Okay, so logically, what would you say is the objective greatest good?
Yeah, well, under the current system, like I said, the kind of Goworthian system that I currently hold to, I would say that the greatest good is enhancing the moral rights of agents.
Okay.
Because if I enhance the moral rights of agents, or agents' access to their moral rights and the ability to exercise their moral rights, then that means that I have more access to my moral rights and my ability to exercise my moral rights. And so obviously I want my moral rights to be protected, and I want to be able to exercise them. And in order for me to be able to have that, I have to make sure that I'm working toward a society, making society better for all agents to be able to do that.
Okay, and then I guess like moral rights.
Oh, you
like,
came back to
I
full
guess-
volume.
Oh, good, good. Maybe it was a glitch in my phone. I don't know.
It's the Matrix.
But yeah, like when it comes to the moral rights, like what is that, and then like how do we know that like that's real? that
Okay,
those
well,
are
I will
real?
give you the Goworthian system that I'm currently working
Okay.
off of. So I will put it up on screen. It's quite a lot, but I don't think it's too complex. Okay,
All right.
so we're going to start with the fact that I'm an agent, right?
Yeah.
And what it means to be an agent is that I take actions to achieve goals. Now, if I take actions to achieve goals, which I do, that means that if something is necessary to achieve my goal, then I have a reason to have it or to do it, right?
Okay.
Okay, so I have reasons to have the things that allow me to achieve my goals. And we know that freedom and well-being is necessary to achieve any goal that I could possibly have. Like if my goal is to learn more about philosophy, well, I need the freedom to go out and access philosophical materials, and I need the well-being to be able to actually read those materials and think about them and consider them, and I need access to other people that I can talk to, whatever. So I have a reason to have all those things. And so for any goal that I'm going to have, no matter what that goal is, I will always have a reason to have freedom and well-being. And what it means to say that I have a reason to have something is to say that I ought have it. That's just a synonym. So then what I can conclude there on the basis of my agency is that I'm committed to the position that I ought have my freedom and well-being. Now, if I'm saying that if I'm committed to the position that I ought have freedom and well-being, then that means that I'm also committed to the position that others ought not interfere with my freedom and well-being. But if I'm claiming that others shouldn't interfere with my freedom and well-being, then I'm claiming a right, because a right is just an outward-facing ought. I'm saying, I don't think you should interfere with my freedom and well-being. That's me claiming a right to freedom and well-being. So now the second conclusion that I would come to here is that based on my agency, I have I have a right to freedom and well-being. Now, if my agency is, oh shit, why didn't that work? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. That's probably why. If my agency is enough to give me a right to freedom and well-being, then that means that agency is enough to give anyone a right to freedom and well-being. So then the conclusion that we get to at the end here is that all agents have a right to freedom and well-being. That's where moral rights stem from, in my view. And so we would just say that the highest moral good is to protect and enhance the agent's rights to freedom and well-being, and evil, bad things are when agents' rights or agents' access to their freedom and well-being is interfered with.
Okay, that's interesting. I think maybe the one premise that I might not agree with is and I'm not saying it doesn't, well, I like the idea that if I have a reason to have something, then I ought have it.
That's just a synonym. That's just defining what I mean by ought. This is just a definitional premise.
Okay, got you. So
what this is saying is, if I have a reason to have something, then I have a reason to have it. It's a tautology.
Right. Yeah. I go. Okay, but like when I think about what ought be done, it usually has like a responsibility to it. It's like if something ought
Right,
to be
because
done,
you have a
that's when it has
reason to do that thing. That's what it means to say you ought do something, is that you have a reason to do something. Now, if you think that morals come from things like duties or obligation to a higher power, then yeah, that's where those oughts are going to come from, is those duties or that higher power. But that's still just saying, when you say I ought do something, that's saying I have a reason to do something. For example, it could be that I have a reason to not murder because God doesn't want me to murder. And that's the same as saying I ought not murder because God doesn't want me to murder.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I guess in that sense, it's like the the idea that this is a right kind of comes back to protect someone who maybe has a reason to do something horrible, like murder. It says, oh wait, you can't do that because other people have the right for their well-being. But it's I see like possible problems where it's like people will argue about what constitutes well-being and what constitutes infringing on people's freedoms, because it's like, okay, I have the right to my freedom and my well-being. If somebody disagrees with me on this, or if somebody does this, we want to use logic to sort of parse these out, but it's like how far is too far to where these rights don't like overlap with each other and start like fighting with each other, like, oh no, this right is more fundamental than this right.
Yeah, that's why I was saying before that these are still difficult questions, but that's not that's not just like the case with the moral system I'm talking about. That's the case with all moral systems. I mean, obviously, that Christians who believe that their morals come from God still disagree all the time on what's right and what's wrong. I mean, I had a Christian up here earlier saying how wrong people like the Westboro Baptist Church are for going out there and protesting against gay rights, and they get their morals from the same God, supposedly. So yeah, I mean, like, just because we have the same source for our morality doesn't mean that we're always going to come to the same conclusions. And that's why I was saying before that getting good at determining the right moral thing to do or the wrong moral thing to do is a skill like anything else. It's a muscle that you have to build over time, kind of like like magic, right? There are techniques in magic that I had to work on for weeks in order to be able to do them. But over time, not only did I learn how to do them, I eventually got to a point where I can do them without even thinking about it now, right? I also play drums, and it's the same with that. When I was a teenager and I was first starting drumming, it was really, really hard to do stuff. And there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to play that I just could not play physically. Like, it just wasn't possible for me to do it, but I worked at it, and over time I got better and better. And now I can sit down and play, crazy, fast, brutal death metal, and it's barely even a workout for me. Even as fat as I am, it's barely even a workout for me, because I just have learned over time how to do it efficiently and effectively without, taxing myself. So it's just a thing that you learn over time, like if you believed in virtue ethics, you would say like, okay, I want to understand what it means, what the true meaning of the virtue of courage is. Okay, well then you have to find examples of people who have been courageous and what results came from their, attempts to be courageous. When did their attempts to be courageous fail? When did they succeed? When do we think that they're, maybe they were being too courageous and they were not having enough of a, different virtue like temperance? Like, those are difficult things to determine, and all we can do is do our best. But that doesn't change the fact that the truth value of those moral claims is objective. It is, stance independent.
Got you. Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate the conversation, and like you kind of like, especially like I feel like you usually don't get someone's moral framework in regular conversation, but that sort of like fascinates me, and I can tell you're fascinated about that, and you're pursuing better systems, and I appreciate that, and I think that's great. I'd love to talk with you more, but I also understand if you want to move on to another guest, since I've been on here for a while.
Well, I mean, I was supposed to end the live 20 minutes ago, so.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you come up here and have a good conversation with me?
Oh, no.
But I do sincerely appreciate the conversation. I think we've spoken 3 or 4 times now, and I think every time has been a really good conversation. You're not somebody that I have to yell at. You're not somebody that is an asshole. So I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you want to I can tell you're very passionate about these things, and you don't like when people maybe like seem like they're dodging or something, but there's room for misunderstanding and there's room for charity, and I'm just thankful that you're firm but you're fair. So I appreciate that.
That's my goal. Maybe I don't always succeed, but I certainly try my best. But I appreciate you for the conversation, and I'm sure that if I'm lucky, we'll get to talk again.
Awesome. I'd love to talk with you again. I really appreciate. I feel like we're having an appreciation fest right now.
A little bit of glazing.
Yeah, I'll quit it and we'll end the live.
All right. You have a good one, Phoenix.
You too, man.
Awesome. Well, like I said, every time I've talked to Phoenix, it's been a solid conversation, so I appreciate it. I want to say one last massive thank you to everybody for all the support tonight. Sincerely, I appreciate it so much. And then, as I always try to say at the end of my lives, remember that tomorrow is not guaranteed, so it's important that you take every opportunity you have to let your family and friends know how much you care about them, how much they mean to you, because you don't know how many of those opportunities